How many times have you run after a bus only to miss it? That's never gonna happen again. Slip the moonwalkers on and you will walk 250% faster than everyone else. This beauty is known as the world's fastest shoe, but honestly, it's more like a high-tech accessory. Think skates mixed with sandals with straps that go right over your regular sneakers. But they are AI-powered. Basically, they learn how you walk, then copy your steps, only faster, giving you an extra boost. It's like the feeling when you're walking in the airport and you step onto a moving sidewalk. But they're not just for flat, smooth terrain. The moonwalkers have 8 overlapping wheels, so they can climb over bumps and even go through puddles. If that's not fast enough for you, how about flying? And no, I'm not talking about a private jet. I mean flying like this. This Iron Man-style jetpack runs on 5 turbojet engines and puts out over 1,000 horsepower. To give you an idea, that's more than a Formula 1 car. It doesn't go as fast though. The top speed is about 80 miles an hour. You just need to fuel it up with diesel, jet fuel, or kerosene, and technically, it can take you as high as 8 times the Empire State Building. The thrust is so strong it makes you feel weightless, so it seems more like walking on the moon than actually flying. Users can direct the jetpack by moving their arms, almost like leaning on a table. And the people who've tried it say the hardest part is controlling the power so the thing doesn't spin out of control. If you want to try it yourself, you'd better start saving. A single flight can cost nearly $2,000. Now, have you ever wondered what a Rubik's Cube might look like in the year 3000? Well, probably like this. The surprising part is, this device already exists, and it was invented by a 12-year-old kid. Meet the WOWCube. At first glance, it looks like a 2x2 Rubik's Cube, but instead of colored squares, every panel is a tiny screen you can interact with. Just rotate the cube until the option you want is selected, double tap, and that's it. You can play classics like 2048, pipes, and even cut the rope. And watch this, the characters and objects move across the different screens. That's the WOWCube's magic. But it's not just about playing games. Put it on your desk at work, for example, and it can show the time, your calendar tasks, and even your social media notifications. Can't sleep? No problem. Switch it to a calming aquarium scene to help you wind down after a long day. Pretty cool, huh? Speaking of gadgets that seem straight out of the future, this is Jetson 1. It's a flying vehicle that looks like a drone, but one big enough to take you for a ride. It can hover, bank, and reach speeds of up to 63 miles an hour. It's electric, which means you'll have to stop and recharge it about every 20 minutes, so no, you can't exactly fly it across the country, unless you're ready to make a lot of pit stops. But hey, if you've got the patience, why not? People say it's surprisingly easy to pilot. It's compact and runs all 8 motors with a single joystick. And let's say one of those motors suddenly fails. Well, you don't have to worry. In about a minute, the system stabilizes itself, and you can finish your flight safely. Phew! But it takes more than courage to fly one of these. First, you will need cash. This tech costs $128,000. And second, you'll need patience. The orders are already sold out until 2026. But look on the bright side. That gives you plenty of time to save up. This next gadget looks just like a regular boring contact lens. But don't be mistaken, it gives you super vision. Put them on at night, and suddenly, even in total darkness, objects start to appear in front of you. These lenses let you see infrared light, the kind that's normally invisible to us. So, regular night vision goggles work with image intensifier tubes. They take in visible or near-infrared light, turn it into electrons, and then project whatever's in front of you onto a glowing green screen. The problem is that they need a power source, and batteries make them bulky. And let's be honest, you'd probably freak people out if you walked around in those. Thankfully, these new lenses don't have that battery issue. Put them on at night, and they use nanoparticles that absorb low-frequency light and convert it into colors your eyes can actually see. For now, it's still just a prototype. It still needs more work and study before it can reach the market. But still, it's a pretty big step toward real night vision. We're also making huge steps with electronic fabrics. Recently, researchers created a piece of clothing you can control by waving your finger. And yes, I said wave, because you don't actually have to touch it. Think of it like a knitted sleeve that works like a keyboard, but there are no keys or buttons on it, only super sensitive sensors. If you wear a ring with a magnet, for example, you can activate those sensors and interact with the fabric without touching it. For now, it's more of a cool demo than a daily tool. But in the future, this could let us control smart devices, like our phones, just by using our clothes. Here's another wearable tech, an AI pin. At first, it looks like an AirPods case, right? But the idea is way more ambitious. Think of it as a phone without a screen. Instead of opening apps and typing on a keyboard, this little wearable hides all of that behind an AI assistant. Kind of like Siri and ChatGPT had a baby and it lives on a brooch. Let's say you're traveling and stop in front of a historic building you don't recognize. Just press the pin and ask, "Hey, what building is this?" And a virtual assistant gives you the correct answer. At least, that's what we hope for. Before you think, do I really need that? Let me give you two angles. First, our hands are usually full, carrying groceries, walking the dog, dragging a suitcase. And it's just not practical to juggle all that while holding your phone. Second, no screen means fewer distractions. You've probably been in that situation where you just needed to set an alarm for the next day and somehow you ended up scrolling through social media or checking random notifications. With this AI pin, you get exactly what you need right away, without wasting time. But if you are glued to your phone, you'll probably love this next invention. Nope, it's not a toaster. It's called the Swipit, and it boosts your battery in seconds. Here's how it works. Your phone sits in a special case with a snap-in battery. When the charge runs out, you don't plug it in, you swap it out. Just pop the case into the Swipit hub, and in seconds, a fresh battery clicks in while the old one stays behind to recharge. Your phone comes out ready to go, no waiting around. But it comes with a cost. $450 for the hub with 5 batteries and $120 for the case. And if you're heading to the beach, you just need to take the Solix Solar Beach Umbrella. This gadget uses a new generation of perovskite solar cells, which is just a fancy way of saying it makes energy the same way solar panels do. Plug in a cable and you can probably recharge your phone or speaker. Some reviews even say it can power up to an electric cooler, so your drinks stay cold all day. So, what more could you ask for? No, really. Tell us in the comments.
Hey, ever since we were kids, we've all known and loved bikes. And let's face it, most of us can ride one with our eyes closed. So, why tinker with a classic? Well, sometimes reinventing the wheel can make for a way more comfortable ride. Check this out. Bikes can have caterpillar wheels. Yeah, it looks a bit funky, but it's actually pretty chill to ride. And bikes don't just vary in shape, they can also be made from some surprising materials. Take bamboo, for instance. Not your typical bike material, right? This cool idea kicked off as a charitable project in Ghana and has since evolved into the brand My Boo. These bikes are handcrafted in Ghana and get their finishing touches in Germany. Plus, they've got Hakuna Matata written on them, which means no worries. Perfect for a laid-back cruise. It's not just regular bikes that get these upgrades. Motorbikes can too. Check out the B-Ride. This motorbike has a versatile 4-season track designed to handle all kinds of terrain and weather conditions. For snowy terrains, there's a specialized track that offers better grip and load-bearing capacity, boosting performance in tough environments. In 1930, John Archibald Purvis introduced his latest patent, a unique vehicle called the Dynasphere. Now, at first glance, you might mistake it for a tire with a very unusual design, covered in square-shaped holes that create a peculiar pattern. But take a closer look, and you'll spot a person inside the wheel. That's the inventor himself taking his creation for a spin. Now, initially, John Archibald developed 2 prototypes, a smaller electric version and another powered by a gasoline engine. The gasoline model boosted either 2.5 or 6 horsepower and could reach top speeds of 25 to 30 miles per hour. This prototype stood 10 feet tall, was made of iron latticework, and weighed around 1,000 pounds. The next version featured 10 outer hoops covered with a leather lining, designed to minimize ground contact. The driver's seat and motor were combined into one unit, mounted on wheels that ran along the interior rails of the outer hoop. When powered forward, this unit would attempt to climb the spherical rails, causing the lattice cage to roll forward. Steering was pretty basic, yet hard. The driver had to lean in the desired direction. Now, fun fact, John Archibald had a historical co-author for his invention, none other than Leonardo da Vinci himself. Okay, they didn't exactly collaborate, but John Archibald drew inspiration from Leonardo's works. The invention is almost 100 years old, and you probably guessed it wasn't a huge success. You don't see them on the streets after all. Did it work? Yes, it did move along just fine, but with a slight catch. It was almost impossible to break. Yeah, I can see where that would be somewhat limiting. So John Archibald's huge tire-like vehicle didn't work out. 30 years later, in the 1960s, the tire company Goodyear had a brilliant but somewhat wacky idea. Why not create tires that light up? These tires were made from a single piece of synthetic rubber and featured bulbs inside the wheel, making the entire tire glow brightly. The plan was to offer a variety of colors, and while these tires looked stunning in the dark, they didn't perform well in wet conditions. Plus, they had a nasty habit of melting under heavy braking, which isn't exactly safe. So the idea was eventually shelved. Now, if you spot someone wearing what looks like a giant diaper on their head, say at an airport, hold on snapping a sneaky pic to share with your friends for a laugh. The chances are that weirdo is actually pretty content because they're sporting something proudly called an original napping pillow. This thing is designed to block out light with 2 holes on the top for your hands if you want to catch some Z's at a desk. It cushions your head while letting you breathe easily, hence the cut in the nose and the mouth area. Now, I can't decide if it looks more like a bizarre medieval mask or a costume straight out of a heavy metal concert. But let's talk practicality. At 17.7 inches tall, it may not be exactly the most compact item to bring on a plane for a short flight, though it can be a lifesaver for a super long-haul transatlantic journey. Hey, I'm not done showing you the weird stuff you can wear on your head. Check this out. It's a head crane. Instead of pouring your cereal into a bowl like a normal person, you can use this milk-powered hydraulic crane device. The arms are operated by syringes filled with milk, mimicking the hydraulics of large industrial diggers. Just push and pull the plungers to move the arms and shovel cereal from the box to your bowl. The grand finale? Press down the white plunger to squirt the milk into the bowl, and yippee! Breakfast is served. Alright, you might not be sold on that crane gadget, but I've got something you'll love. The Rion Pocket, Japan's must-have summer device. It's like having an AC unit attached to your body. This wearable air conditioner goes around your neck and under your clothes, using sensors to detect your physical activity and adjust the cooling level automatically. This keeps you comfortable and saves battery life. Now, the idea for this innovation came 35 years ago, when a Sony engineer was on vacation in Southeast Asia. There were many factors he noticed, and all of them, summed up together, led to the concept of individual cooling systems like fan jackets. In 2004, the first fan jackets were launched. Though initially not very comfortable with quick battery drain and frequent malfunctions, these jackets have seen a resurgence in popularity this year, especially among outdoor workers. The new digitally controlled jackets feature 2 electric fans around the lower back, creating a personal microenvironment with a gentle breeze to keep wearers cool. Ever thought about how much more you could get done without the constant distraction of social media? Well, that's the idea behind the Ampere Traction Timer. Here's how it works. You place your phone in a special box, which then blocks access to the device. You set the duration for your tech-free time, and once the timer is up, you can access your phone again. The developers believe this smart timer can boost concentration and make a great gift for anyone struggling with phone addiction. It's all about encouraging users to achieve deeper focus as part of their daily routine. Or hey, maybe try some self-control. It's free. Here's a fun indie project for you. A guy invented shoes that let him walk on water. Inspired by Leonardo da Vinci, these shoes allow you to stroll on water and cruise beneath the surface. They're powered by large electrical motors and propellers attached to the user's legs. While they might remind you of a jet ski, they're more compact, making them a unique invention on their own. With some practice, you can even jump out of the water and glide along the surface. By the way, this guy wasn't the only one who attempted such an invention. Meet Dwarka Prasad, who's come up with a clever way to walk on water using giant specially designed shoes filled with thermocol. These shoes are fitted to each foot and come with thermocol-filled oars for added buoyancy. The lightweight thermocol provides just the right amount of float. The water shoes consist of 2 floats bonded to a Rexine sheet, all attached to metal straps with back foot support. They're also tied together to keep them from drifting too far apart, making them easier to control. In India, there aren't many alternatives for crossing water bodies other than boats. Ambitious bicycles are one option using air-filled floats and propellers. So these shoes were a good idea. They were invented back in the 80s, yet they're still in use in the rural parts of India. Finally, the invention straight from the 60s for those who wish for the perks of having a cat but are not ready to commit. Designed to scare off rats and mice. It turns out the rodents weren't buying it. Plus, it couldn't cuddle with you after a long day. On the bright side, it didn't shred your sofa or bring home any unwanted gifts. That invention didn't work out, and people are still trying to invent electric pets. Nah, we may have the weirdest of the bikes, but no one will ever replace an actual purring cat. Trust me on this. Has your trusty phone ever let you down? More times than you can count? It always seems to run out of juice at the worst possible moment. You forget to top it off, or you end up in an area with no service. And let's not forget how useless it can be in an emergency, like during a tornado when there's no signal. But fear not, there's a cool project called Meshtastic that uses a wireless protocol to keep you connected with your friends. It's like magic, using a radio band called LoRa for encrypted messages. It works in literally any external conditions. Plus, each device can act as a repeater to extend the range of your messages. Perfect for disaster recovery or just keeping tabs on your kids. For less than $25, you can get a starter kit to join the Meshtastic fun. Add a GPS module and a battery and you've got your own private channel. No more stressing when your kids are out and about. You can instantly see where they are. And if you're feeling daring, you can even send low bitrate audio through the airwaves. Now, I'll bet there's a bunch of things your car just can't do. Can it lean into corners? Yeah, I don't think so. What about adjusting its own width to park easier? I know your answer is no, but let me show you something then. This cutie is called Trigo EV, and even though it looks like a futuristic stroller, it's actually a fully functional quadricycle you can totally drive. It was initially created for delivery and car-sharing purposes, but it turned out cooler and way more comfy than expected. If you ever find yourself driving this electric, let's call it a car, shall we? You won't need anything else but a tiny patch of land to park it. It has a maximum speed of 56 miles per hour. Not bad for such a tiny car. In cruise driving mode, it measures 58 inches wide, but a mechanism allows the front wheels to retract toward the chassis, reducing the width to 34 inches. The electric four-wheeler weighs slightly over 1,000 pounds, with a total permissible mass of around 1,600 pounds. Right, it all looks futuristic and fun, but I feel safer in good old SUVs. Ever wished you had an extra arm to help you out when your hands are full? Scientists have figured out how to control a robotic third arm using just your diaphragm muscle. It's as easy as pie, if pie is easy. This awesome discovery was made in Switzerland as part of the super cool Third Arm Project. They had volunteers wearing exoskeleton arms and a sensor belt to track their diaphragm movements, all while navigating a virtual world in VR. After over 150 sessions with 61 volunteers, most people found it a breeze to control 3 arms at once. They could even multitask, chatting and looking around while using the third arm. Now recently, a new fully autonomous delivery service with fast food joints was launched. This means no people involved from pickup to drop-off. It's called Flytrex, and it's been delivering using drones since 2017, teaming up with big names in retail and food to bring you quick and cheap deliveries. They're currently flying high in North Carolina and Texas, with plans to expand nationwide. Their goal is to make deliveries faster and cheaper using their trusty drones. Your order could be at your door in as little as 5 minutes after it's ready. Now, that's speedy. Flytrex got a huge increase in customers and even FAA approval for long-range drone deliveries in 2023. Partnering with big brands like Unilever and Papa John's, they're definitely on a roll. More a pizza roll. The WOWCube Owl project is all about making a super cool monorail vehicle for getting around in rural areas sustainably. The WOWCube is a clever little autonomous monorail vehicle that can balance itself on a regular rail without any extra support. Its slim design allows it to zip along single-track lines in both directions, perfect for some unique rail mobility ideas. It's like a fun service-on-demand option that's way more exciting than your usual transportation choices, especially for reviving old railway lines in rural areas. Everyone on the WOWCube Owl team is stoked about shaking things up in rural mobility. Right now, there's a lack of good, eco-friendly and budget-friendly options for getting around in less populated areas. Reactivating old railway lines is a great start, but we need some fresh ideas to really make it work. That's where these small, self-driving rail vehicles come in. They bring together the best of rail travel with on-demand booking and a cool digital navigation system. Look here! Can you identify what this weird-looking object is? It's a mobile solar container with foldable solar panels for green energy on the go. Just pop out the panels, unfold them, and you're good to power up equipment and properties with green energy wherever you are. The solar container can extend up to almost 400 feet in length when fully unfolded and has 240 solar panels. It's perfect for both on- and off-grid uses, like rescue missions and outdoor events. And it only takes about 5 hours to set up. Easy peasy. There's even an automatic conveyor system for easy folding and unfolding of the panels. Just push a button and start harnessing solar power. Solar Kant, the Austrian company that invented it, estimates this mobile solar container can power around 32 households. Virtual meetings are all the rage nowadays. Remote chats are cool, but let's be real, they're no match for face-to-face meetings. We can see each other, hear each other, but it's still pretty flat and 2D. Or, shall I say it was flat? The thing is, HoloBox from HoloConnects is bringing holograms to life. This super cool device lets you project a life-size hologram of yourself or anyone else inside a funky box. Just plug it in, connect it to the internet, and voila! You've got a hologram ready to go. You can even connect multiple boxes to showcase big stuff like cars or anything else. Now, holograms are a massive game changer for remote communication. Imagine chatting with someone and seeing them in 3D like they're right there with you. Plus, it adds a personal touch to presentations, training sessions, ads, you name it. What do you think? Does this look cool or creepy? Check out the latest creation from a rockstar team of engineers at NASA Ames Research Center and KBR, a robot system that can autonomously build structures using lattice blocks. Their paper in Science Robotics explains how these robots and blocks work together to create amazing things. Designed for future lunar missions, these robots can lay down foundations for shelters before astronauts arrive. 3 robots work together to carry and connect blocks with twisty edges, similar to assembling IKEA furniture. They have already built impressive structures, like a shelter made of 256 blocks in just over 4 days. Imagine what they could do on the moon. Experience the interactive pearl sculpture by Breakfast. No food implied, just the name of the company. It's placed on a huge cruise ship called the Icon of the Seas. The stunning creation imitates the ocean's vibes, with rolling waves and shooting stars, each tile placed in a neat Fibonacci sequence. Using real-time data from the Caribbean, this sculpture changes constantly to match the current weather and tides, bringing the ocean to life before your eyes. Yeah, this invention won't change your life, but it's meant to nurture your soul. Have you heard about the Seattle-based startup Jetoptera? They're developing innovative vertical takeoff and landing vehicles with bladeless propulsion systems, promising a future of quiet, safe, and fast urban flight. By 2050, 70% of the population will be living in cities, leading to crowded streets. But Jetoptera's fluidic propulsion system offers a solution, using air pressure technology for silent operation. Jetoptera is also working on a high-speed VTOL for the U.S. Air Force, with plans for passenger-carrying prototypes by 2026. Well, that's exciting. Would you like your car to have a high-tech holographic windshield? Hyundai plans to start mass-producing it soon. This windshield will be split into sections. The driver can see useful information like speed and directions, while the passenger can watch movies or play games. Even cooler, you can send videos or games straight from your phone to the passenger section. From the outside, it will look like a normal windshield, so no need to worry about attracting thieves. We hope it's also, safe. The next cool invention is a tiny relaxation device you'll be able to wear around your neck. This pendant can create different types of vibrations, like the gentle feeling of a cat purring or soothing heartbeat, to help you feel calm or entertain you. When you're listening to music, it can make your chest vibrate, so you're feeling like you're at a live concert with booming speakers. Great news for you if you aren't a fan of getting up earlier to fill up your coffee maker with water. The new Carapod pulls water straight out of the air and makes enough for 13 cups of coffee. It even uses a UV filter to clean the water and make it safe to drink. The pods are plant-based, so they're better for the environment. The creator got the idea from a beetle in the desert of Namibia that collects water on its shell. The new magical spoon from Japan makes food taste saltier than it actually is and saves you from all the extra salt. The spoon has tiny electrodes that send a super small gentle zap of electricity. Don't worry, it doesn't hurt at all. The electricity moves tiny bits of sodium on your tongue, which makes your brain think the food has more salt and yummy flavors, even though it doesn't. You can even choose how salty you want it to taste, with 4 settings to pick from. Japanese scientists are creating tech that lets you feel virtual textures, like sand, water, or squishy objects. Instead of using motors like most haptics, they put a tiny bit of oil in a gadget called an actuator. Electricity changes the thickness of the oil, creating the right sensation when you touch or press. Magnets help control the texture, so it feels super realistic. If your desktop screen never feels large enough for you, you're going to love the world's first rollable laptop. Push one button and it will extend a 14-inch screen upward to the screen space of 16.7 inches. You can even adjust it with a simple hand gesture. It's perfect for scrolling through documents, PDFs, or web pages. The manufacturer tested the rolling mechanism 30,000 times with no issues, so it's built to last. Would you like to legally display a Van Gogh painting in your bedroom? The Ink Poster will let you do it. It's a new low-power digital poster, and you can update it easily using Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. It's super low power and only uses battery power when the image is changed, so you'll only need to charge it once a year. If you ever feel too lazy to read bedtime stories to your little ones, the Bookstory platform has got you covered. It uses AI to read books aloud, and it can even use your own voice. Just place a book under a sensor and it figures out what's on the pages. It can read the story normally, turn it into a song with song mode, or make it feel like a movie with music and sound effects in theater mode. It can also translate books into any language instantly. Toshiba's AI-powered TV will detect different types of audio, like crowd cheering or loud traffic during news streamings. Then, it will let you amplify or mute specific sounds with a push of just one button, so you never have to miss anything important because of background noise. How about a transparent TV? It will blend perfectly into any interior, as when you're not watching it, you can choose to display art in 3D or make it completely see-through. And if you decide to watch it like a good old regular TV, the image quality is also very impressive. It's already up for grabs for around $60,000. Hey, let's get two. You might not have the time to go see a doctor every day, but you can sure let a smart full-length mirror check your health while you stand in front of it. The mirror scans your body for things like heart and lung health, while the base measures heart rate, blood pressure, and even your oxygen use. The mirror explains everything in simple terms. Another cool invention is a super small chip, only as thin as a piece of paper. It produces sound in a completely new way, by creating waves that are so high-pitched even humans can't hear them. These special waves help create a clear, rich sound that works perfectly no matter what you're listening to. It's 3 times thinner than the drivers use to make sound in most headphones or speakers. This tiny chip can fit into a lot of things, like your favorite wireless earbuds, smart glasses, or your phone. If you spend a lot of time in your office chair, or maybe you're a passionate gamer, you're gonna love the new model with temperature control. It comes both with a heater and a bladeless fan. The fan draws the air from the bottom of the smart chair. It goes through vents on the sides of the chair's back and right up to your neck. The folks who tested it say it's way more pleasant than just a fan in the room, and the heating doesn't make your back sweat. You won't have to go off the grid anymore, even on your most remote and wild adventures. The new off-grid gadget will be linked to your smartphone to let you use satellite internet networks in areas that have no cellular signal. You'll also be able to share your location with up to 5 people, so they'll always know exactly where you are. No worries, it's tiny and almost weightless, so it won't weigh you down while hiking. Coming up next, a headset that uses noise-canceling and sound-dampening technologies to create an invisible sound bubble effect around you. Even if someone is standing just 2 feet away, they won't hear a word of your conversation. The headset has special microphones that can pick up your voice even if you talk very softly, as quiet as a whisper. Most microphones need you to talk way louder, basically shouting. The new headset also blocks out background noise, so the person you're talking to hears only your voice, clear and crisp. Scientists in Japan have built a machine that turns sunlight and water into clean hydrogen fuel. It uses special sheets that catch sunlight and split water into hydrogen and oxygen. The hydrogen is collected as fuel, and the oxygen is left behind. This could power cars, factories, and homes, but the tech still needs some work to make it faster and more efficient. Right now, the machine is still in the making, and the scientists need some time to make it better to work faster and create more fuel. Gardening fans, meet your new best friend, Petal. This bright orange camera, shaped like a flower on a plant-like stalk, uses AI to identify and track insects. It can even observe other things in your garden, like sprouting seeds and growing plants. Don't have a garden yet? Hey, no problem. The same company also sells Wonder Blocks, a modular system that works as a planter, and a cozy bug hotel for pollinators. It feels like everything is run by AI these days, even lipstick. This baby is designed by a Brazilian cosmetics brand to make applying makeup easier for people with visual impairments or limited upper body mobility. A special sensor figures out the shape of the user's lips. They pick a color they like, and then a robot arm smoothly applies the lipstick for them. The same company has already created easy grip makeup brushes for people who might have trouble with hand coordination or grip strength. So, which of these inventions would you like to try out first?
Water, earth, air. These are the 3 elements that can unleash disasters. Thankfully, the masters of all elements, aka scientists and engineers, created these 7 genius inventions that might one day help save your life. Your home insurance company will appreciate you investing in this one. Floodworks vinyl tubes are like big, long pillows made of strong plastic that are filled with water. Each tube is 4 feet long and can be used to block water from getting through doors or into garages, as well as divert it. They're good for stopping water that's up to 6 inches high. You can bend these tubes into different shapes, and they will hold their new form. They're designed with a cap on one end to fill them up with water. The other end has a special opening that lets you connect tubes together with a clip to allow you to create a longer barrier if needed. There's a part on the tubes called a break, which stops them from rolling away. To keep out taller amounts of water, you can put one layer of tubes on top of another, making a triangle shape like a pyramid. This can keep out water up to 12 inches high. However, it's advised not to stack them any higher than that. If you've got deeper water, you might need a different water-bending move. I mean, flood solution. If only Titanic had this invention on board. In the event of a shipwreck, we know by now that old-school lifeboats are too slow to launch and there aren't enough for everyone. Life buoys, on the other hand, are too few and can only save one person each. And life jackets are often not within easy reach when you really need them. This is where instant relief comes in handy. So cleverly called the Anti-Tanic, it is a lifeboat that allows multiple people to stay safe and together in the event of a shipwreck. It has a crisscross, waffle-like pattern that acts like many life rafts, allowing a large number of people to stay afloat. In case of an emergency, once the ship's sensors detect damage, the alarm sounds and the device gets to work right away without anyone having to do anything. Fueled by high-pressure carbon dioxide, it fills up with gas in just 2 minutes. The life mat can be 50 square meters, so there's room to save plenty of people. And no, people don't need to literally jump ship to get on it. The device inflates and forms a ladder against the ship's side, so everyone can climb down this ladder and onto the safety of the big air mat. What's even more clever is that the mat has different sections. People who need extra help, like the elderly, children, or those with disabilities, can stay out of the water and rest. If earthbending is not one of your skills, better check this invention out. Debris flows and shallow landslides are like super fast rivers of mud that can carry big rocks, tree branches, or even large boulders. They happen when too much rain or melted snow makes the ground on hillsides too wet and slippery, especially if there aren't any plants or trees to hold the soil together. This can also happen when the ground gets burned in a wildfire and there's nothing left to protect it. Debris flows usually follow the shape of the land, moving through natural paths like gullies or ditches. If nothing stops them, they can damage roads, bridges, and houses, or even block rivers. This is where the debris flow barriers come in handy. They act like a big net that catches these mud rivers before any disastrous consequences. Placed right in the natural paths of the debris flow, the barrier has special elements that soak up the energy from the debris flow, slowing it down and stopping all the stuff from moving further. What's also great about them is that they don't damage the environment. One can take them down without leaving a mess and put them back up again if there's a risk of debris flows in the future. This little box, created by NASA engineers, is not looking for extraterrestrial creatures or other planets. It's a life-saving radar called Finder that's designed to find people trapped under the rubble of collapsed buildings right here on Earth. Using a technology that is similar to what might be used for space exploration, Finder can detect the tiny, rhythmic movements of a human heartbeat and breathing amidst chaos and destruction. The way it works is like this. It sends out a safe, low-energy microwave signal into the debris, which is much weaker than what your mobile phone emits. As the signal then bounces back from the rubble, Finder listens for patterns that show someone is there, living and breathing, even when they can't call out or may be unconscious. The device is so sensitive that it can tell the difference between a person and an animal. Engineers also use a unique method to pick out these signals of life from other random movements, like leaves shaking or other non-life patterns. According to tests, it can search a small building in about 10 minutes and a much larger area in about a half an hour. On the other hand, the next invention is designed to help save lives, not after, but during the event of an earthquake. Earthquake-proof table is a sturdy school desk that doubles as a life-saving shelter during earthquakes. While kids are often taught to duck and cover under their desks when the ground shakes, regular tables can become traps if they buckle or collapse. But not this one. It's built to stand strong during quakes and keep the kids safe underneath it. What makes it special is that it's been thought through for different ways buildings can fall apart during a quake. This way, it ensures kids can have a safe spot no matter what and can be reached by rescue teams afterward. It has also been put to impact tests with various types of weights and debris to confirm it can take a beating without going in. Besides its strength, the table is light enough for 2 children to lift and move, as well as spacious enough to accommodate a pair of students seeking refuge. This invention basically allows you to bend water and air at the same time. Imagine you're out enjoying the waves or paddling on a lake, and you suddenly need a bit of help to stay afloat. This is where Kingi, which is the world's smallest wrist flotation device, comes in. Worn around your wrist, it's sleek and barely noticeable until you need it. In the event of distress in the water, you can activate it by pulling a lever, which triggers the inflation of a balloon. This balloon aids in buoyancy, easing you to the water's surface. The device is also equipped with a whistle to draw the attention of rescuers in critical situations. Kingi is not a single use. Once you're back on dry land, you can deflate the balloon, fold it back inside, pop in a new CO2 cartridge, and it's ready for your next water adventure. The last invention on the list is like a guardian angel for adventurers in snowy mountains. When an avalanche hits, it can be a race against time. In such an event, SafeBack SBX helps you continue breathing if you get trapped under snow masses, all without the need for a mouthpiece. This could be a game changer because, usually, if someone is trapped by an avalanche, they might only have about 15 minutes before running out of air becomes a real problem. But with the SafeBack SBX, you could have up to 90 minutes of breathing help. That's a lot of extra time for rescuers to get you. It's been through a ton of tests to make sure it works in all kinds of snowy situations. It's also designed to fit into different brands of avalanche backpacks. Plus, it's light enough to not add extra weight to your backpack and tough enough to handle the rough and tumble of an avalanche and keep working.
A huge train is rushing down the tracks, brakes screeching. In a few seconds, a 1,000-ton steel battering ram will crash into a bus that is stuck on the railroad crossing. Only a miracle can save the people. Wait, what's that? Moments before the collision, a human figure appears. The person's flying off the nearby mountain with a jetpack behind their back. Their body is protected by an exoskeleton. The suit is similar to the armor of a knight and makes a person incredibly strong. They land in front of the train and press their hands on its front. The exoskeleton absorbs the impact. Wheels screech like crazy. Then, a loud whistling squeal. And, just a few feet away from the bus, the train finally stops. The bus doors aren't working. People can't get out of it. The hero produces a lightsaber from their belt and cuts a new door. This scenario might seem too fantastic, but a lot of cool things previously seen only in comics and movies are now reality. Sarcos Robotics Exoskeleton makes the operator 20 times stronger, reduces the likelihood of injury, and doesn't restrain movement. This model is just one of many examples. In the near future, these mechanisms will appear on the streets and will become as familiar as flying drones or hoverboards. In such a suit, you can both rescue people and lift a fridge upstairs alone. But the armor seems incomplete if it can't fly. Richard Browning is the founder of Gravity Industries, a company developing jetpacks. He's also the chief test pilot. His apparatus consists of a large jet engine behind the back and 2 smaller ones on either arm. The person dressed in it looks like a character in a sci-fi action movie. If you weigh less than 200 pounds, this backpack will let you fly. The catch? Right now, it costs $440,000 to make one. The lightsaber is what fun science means. Several generations of scientists, bloggers, and Jedi fans are trying to create their trademark. The main contender for a lightsaber is high-energy plasma. The strength of the magnetic field will help the plasma keep its shape in the air. But there's a problem. To make the saber work, you'll need to carry a lot of equipment with you. And let's not forget about the ultraviolet radiation and heat that comes from hot plasma. The burner metal vapor torch is currently the best alternative to the Jedi sword. This device cuts through a metal door in a few seconds, but fencing with a torch won't work. The cloak that makes a person invisible is no longer a fantasy. Canadian company Hyper Stealth Biotechnology Corp has developed a fabric that will make you disappear. There's no magic in the work of the cloak, just good old physics. This cloak of invisibility creates an optical illusion that hides you from prying eyes. Since 1985, the hoverboard got lots of attention from people all over the world, and inventors have been trying to recreate this design for decades. Many companies have developed their own flying skateboard designs. There's a hoverboard powered by a stream of water, burning kerosene, electricity, or rotating propellers. ARC's Pax Hendo is the closest to its sci-fi prototype. The model can fly in all directions, turn, and brake. This is possible due to two magnetic fields that repel each other. In 1947, US engineers looked at the car and decided it was boring. Or maybe we can make it fly. Great idea, that. The result of their work was the Model 118 Conv air car. Roughly speaking, they took a passenger car and attached a plane with a propeller to its roof. Companies around the world continue to invest millions of dollars in the flying car project, although their cars today look more like drones or helicopters. Many researchers are confident we'll never build a flying car. It's too expensive and dangerous. Who knows? In the 19th century, people said these four-wheeled carts would never replace a horse. But today, a comfortable ride on the highway always beats riding a horse in the prairie. While engineers are trying to get cars to fly, their colleagues have made it so that transport doesn't need a driver anymore. The computer takes over the controls. If you need to go to a supermarket or restaurant, your self-driving car will choose the best route itself. It also knows how to park. I should have started with this. The car distinguishes between other road users thanks to sensors, video cameras, and powerful computer processors. It notices traffic signals and road signs. The Robo-Taxi project is one of the most promising ones in the field. Most likely, in the next 10 to 20 years, driving schools will become a thing of the past. For thousands of years, ancient people sat by fires and looked at the starry sky. Our civilization has already explored space firsthand, but there are still more questions than answers. There have been 600 astronauts in space in 60 years. Of these, 7 people are tourists who have visited the International Space Station. For the right to see our planet from a height of 250 miles, you have to pay $50 million. SpaceX and its owner Elon Musk are willing to establish a colony on Mars by 2050. 1 million people will settle in the first ever Martian city. You don't have to get on board a spaceship to feel like you're on another planet. 80% of the world's oceans are unexplored and unmapped. Marine vessel manufacturers offer to explore the seabed in comfort. To this end, they've developed submarine yacht designs that combine comfort and safety. The private submarine Migaloo M5 is as long as the Washington Monument is tall, and it can stay underwater for 4 weeks. The set includes a hangar with a helicopter, jet skis, and mini bath escapes. There are no buyers yet, but it's only a matter of time. Imagine that you're a scuba diver who descended to the bottom of the ocean. There's darkness all around you, but the flashlight can handle it. You breathe liquid that fills your helmet up to your eyes. Wait, what? We can't breathe water or, for example, soda because these substances don't have enough oxygen, not because they're liquid. In the future, scuba divers will breathe liquid enriched with oxygen. It'll also allow for deep diving. American company Second Sight Medical Products has developed an artificial eye that can restore vision to a blind person. It's called Argus 2. It's actually an electronic retinal implant and the first step in creating the bionic eye. Perhaps in the future, it'll be able to zoom in and out of objects, make the image clear, or turn on infrared light. Augmented reality glasses haven't reached technical perfection yet. Most futurists are confident they'll change our world, just like the internet did. Why do you need a TV or computer? At your command, the glasses will lower a virtual screen of any size in front of you with your favorite TV series. The same applies to furniture, clothing, and dishes. All this will be replaced by virtual stuff. Augmented reality glasses digitize any item that surrounds you and makes it look how you want it to. Unless you take them off, of course. Today, you have a Mediterranean landscape out your window, and tomorrow, you've got a view of Times Square. Hard drives and computer optical drives store enormous amounts of data, but this technology is unreliable. Over time, disks become unreadable. Scientists have almost solved this problem. They learned how to write electronic data into the DNA of living bacteria. Biological processes take place inside every living cell. Scientists have managed to program them using computer systems methods. Nanobots will appear in the next 10 years. In movies and comics, villains are most often associated with this technology. In the real world, nanobots will be used in medicine. Each robot is no larger than a molecule. By launching a flock of nanobots into the human body, doctors will be able to monitor the health and physical condition of their patients. And probably the best thing about nanobots is that they can be 3D printed. Cloning a dinosaur might not seem like a good idea in movies, but real scientists say it's not even an option. Genes can be used for cloning if they're no more than 1 million years old, and dinosaurs disappeared 65 million years ago. But there are other animals as well. There's a high probability that mammoths will reappear on Earth in the next 50 years, as well as woolly rhinoceroses and even saber-toothed tigers. Scientists plan to implant genetic material of extinct animals into the DNA of existing ones: elephants, rhinos, and tigers. In sci-fi movies, we often see spaceships and stations shooting colorful beams into space that attract other ships. Australian scientists have managed to create such a beam, only it's invisible. Their beam is capable of capturing and holding atoms floating in a vacuum. Of course, these aren't huge space stations yet, but this is a big step in the study of physics. Scientists have created a quantum funnel that will allow studying the individual atoms and molecules that make up everything around.
In 2023, an ex-NASA engineer claimed he built a machine that can lift itself against gravity without using any fuel. No rockets, no fire, no exhaust, just electricity. If true, it would break the most sacred laws in physics and rewrite everything we know about space travel. So, is this just another hoax or a door to the future? The engineer's name is Charles Bueller. He used to work for NASA, making sure rockets don't blow up randomly. He was a part of the Space Shuttle, Hubble, ISS, and other huge projects. Now, Bueller and his team work at a private company called Exodus Propulsion Technologies, trying to build a long-term dream of space engineers, a spacecraft that doesn't need fuel. It's the kind of thing that would instantly change everything about space travel. Just think of the future where you could go to the moon, Mars, or wherever you'd like without spending tons of resources. And he claims that he and his team have finally cracked the code. That they've built a machine that can lift itself in the air without any propellant. You got it right. The team claims to have violated Newton's third law, the basic rule of our world that every action needs an equal and opposite reaction. For example, in rockets, you throw fuel out the back, that's action. Being pushed by it, the rocket goes forward. That's the reaction. A magical device like that would also violate the conservation of momentum. When you push on something, you gain momentum, but something else has to gain equal momentum in the opposite direction to balance the books. But this device would change the total momentum of the system out of nowhere. If you're getting motion without pushing against anything, how in the world did you do that? It's like a balloon that can somehow move forward without blowing out any air. If the machine actually works, there must be some new, unknown force of nature that we've somehow missed in hundreds of years of physics. Bueller himself called it the new force. Let's try to figure it out. To create this magical device, they used electrostatics. Their test device was little, a 30-gram object about the size of a card deck, and it managed to create thrust or push using electric fields, a kind of invisible force made by electric charges. The new force starts working when two things happen in the system. The first one is electric imbalance. There's some electric pressure happening across parts of the device, kind of like air pressure. If it's not spread out evenly across it, for example, one side has more electric push than the other, that's the first ingredient. And that happens when the electric field, the invisible force that electric charges create, is set up just right. It has to spread out in a certain way, not in straight lines, but uneven and fanning out, like sun rays or the spokes of a wheel. And boom, when it happens, the device pushes on itself and makes the whole object move. At first, the mysterious new force was tiny, barely noticeable, little to no thrust and noise. But with each upgrade, things started to shift. And in 2023, they finally measured enough thrust to overcome Earth's gravity. The weirdest part is that, according to Bueller, in some cases, the thrust keeps going even when the power is off, as long as there's still charge left in the materials. That's weird. That's really weird. That hints at something totally new in physics, something deeper than we currently understand. So now, any honest scientist starts sweating, because that sounds bananas, and frankly, it might be. Bueller admits this is still early work. The team published their discovery and got a patent. By the way, the company includes people who've worked at NASA, Blue Origin, and the US Air Force. They've been tinkering with this stuff for decades. Charles presented his findings at APEC, a conference for people who are passionate about alternative propulsion and crazy stuff like warp drives, anti-gravity, and ways to make Star Trek real. Now, they're actively working on that project. Of course, this stuff got very controversial, and lots of scientists are skeptical. There might be a mistake no one has caught yet, so they want to test the machine in space. If it works out there too, it could change space travel forever. It might be real, because it's not the first time we've discovered something like this. Recently, a startup called Evo Limited claimed that they'd built a quantum drive, another propulsion device that apparently didn't need fuel. They said they're tapping into a weird controversial theory of physics called quantized inertia. It was cooked up by a British physicist named Mike McCulloch. He basically said that inertia, the thing that makes objects resist acceleration, isn't a basic rule of nature, but an effect caused by some weird quantum radiation at the edge of the observable universe. In simple words, if Qi is right, then under the right conditions, you might be able to generate thrust without throwing anything backward. You don't need fuel, just electricity and a clever enough setup. Many scientists don't buy into it, but who knows? Maybe that's why these new inventions could actually work. Anyway, initially, the IVO company was founded by a small team of tech guys who wanted to find wireless power. Their first big idea was called CBAT, capacitive-based aerial transmission. Basically, a fancy way to wirelessly send electricity through the air. But somewhere along the way, they pivoted. They started wondering, if we can move electricity through the air like this, can we move objects too? Can we rethink inertia itself? So, in 2021, they began working on a propulsion device based on this quantized inertia theory. They built the quantum drive around this idea. It was a self-contained electric system. No fuel tanks, no combustion, just a plug-and-play box that makes spacecraft move. They said it's light, stackable, and can be bolted onto a satellite like a toaster. And it weighs just a few hundred grams, way lighter than traditional thrusters. In 2023, they tested it, not in someone's garage, but in a legit vacuum chamber, simulating space conditions. The team said they ruled out every known force that might explain the results, and that it did generate thrust, not a lot, but consistent and measurable. Then came the big moment. IVO and a partner company, Rogue Space Systems, launched the quantum drive into space, and now they're waiting for the results of the tests. A lot of physicists think it's all nonsense. Some of them notice that this stuff is impossible because they'd be perpetual motion machines. Basically, if a device like this actually worked, you could use it to make infinite energy, which violates the first law of thermodynamics. But IVO says they're not doing that. They say QI works within our normal Newton's laws, just a bit differently. Anyway, all this stuff needs double-checking. Skepticism is so right because a lot of people get some unpleasant flashbacks. In 2001, a British engineer named Roger Scheuer introduced the M drive. It was this weird cone-shaped device that supposedly created thrust without pushing anything out the back. People were super excited. NASA even tested it with their EagleWorks team, and in 2016, they said they've detected tiny amounts of thrust from the M drive. The media absolutely blew up. People and scientists were hyped up, but later, bigger studies, including one from a German university that really went deep, found the sad result. It was just an experimental error. By 2021, the verdict was in. The M drive didn't work. It was all experimental noise, misunderstood data. Another dream went down the drain. Many propellantless designs have crashed into one huge, stubborn wall, the laws of physics. So it's too early to say that these startups just change the world forever, but if it turns out to be real, it's not just a new engine, it's a new era. Tsunamis, earthquakes, avalanches. There are so many dangers haunting us in this world. Luckily, the greatest minds of our time have invented more than enough devices to save our lives, even in the most unpredictable situations. Some of them look like something out of a sci-fi movie, like a device allowing you to imitate Spider-Man or a drone that can turn into a boat. Let's have a look at these engineering wonders. A wall of water is approaching rapidly. It's a tsunami. You rush to the roof towards your survival capsule. It's a bright orange, high-strength floating metal ball, watertight, buoyant, and made of aircraft-grade aluminum. It can withstand sharp object penetration and heat exposure that can protect up to 16 people. With 5 days' worth of supplies, it can also be used in the event of a typhoon or hurricane. If an earthquake scares you even more than a tsunami, there's a Chinese inventor, Wang, that has got you covered. His idea is a special bed with tremor sensors. When activated, it swallows the sleeper inside a metal frame with a protective lid, basically transforming into an earthquake-resistant box. The bed also has crucial items you need to survive, like medical kits, flashlights, water, and food supplies enough to last for several days. You aren't likely to get out of that earthquake bed on your own, but thanks to this next invention, you can get out of the car in case of an emergency. At first glance, this wrist strap looks unassuming, but the bead is made of tungsten carbide, known for being extra tough and super durable. If you get blocked in a car, you can take off your bracelet and use it as a slingshot to easily shatter the glass. Its price also starts from a mere $8. Unfortunately, this wonder wristband can't help you if you're being pulled away from the shore by a rip current. But the Life Drone can. It's an amphibious rescue device that can travel both in the air and on water. Its body opens up and orients the propellers in an X formation to fly. Once the drone spots you, its base inflates into a life raft so that you can climb onto it. Then the drone closes and forms an I formation, and its propellers start working underwater, pushing the raft towards safety. If you're stuck on a high floor during a fire or any other emergency, a Skysaver backpack can save your life. True to its name, it's a backpack with a built-in controlled descent device for evacuating high-rise buildings during emergencies. Thanks to it, a controlled descent from up to 260 feet is possible. All you need to do is buckle up, clip the cable to the anchor, and descend slowly. If you ever find yourself in shark-infested waters, a Shark Bands bracelet might save your life. This accessory uses magnets to create an electromagnetic field, disrupting electroreception of sharks. It's supposed to deter them from coming close to the wearer. Plus, Shark Bands doesn't harm sharks or any other ocean inhabitants. If, while driving a car, you get into an accident, an airbag will protect you. Unfortunately, motorcyclists don't have the same protection. Or do they? Helite Turtle 2 Air Vest is a wearable airbag for bikers that inflates after detachment from a bike and provides a great protection against impacts. It can be reused and inflates ultra fast, faster than you can blink. It also protects the most vital parts of the body. If you're a fan of winter sports like mountain skiing and snowboarding, you might want to invest into an avalanche airbag. It can significantly increase the chances of surviving in an avalanche. It's basically a large balloon that inflates within 3 seconds once you pull a cord or handle. When inflated, the airbag makes it less likely for you to be completely covered with snow and keeps you as high up in the snowpack as possible. Another awesome invention is indestructible gloves. Schmidt's Mitts safety gloves are made from Kevlar and other resistant materials and offer extreme protection against heat, cuts, and impacts. Dubbed the world's toughest gloves, they cost around $50 a pair and are super useful for people working in the fields that require superior hand protection, like firefighters or those working on oil and gas rigs. In the near future, doctors might have an amazing invention to help them do their job too. I'm talking about a magnetic slime robot. It's made of slime material that can navigate tight spaces inside the human body and retrieve swallowed objects. The soft robot is controlled by magnets and can reach a speed of more than 1 inch per second. Unfortunately, at the moment the robot is toxic to ingest for humans. But scientists are working on this problem. And this is an amazing invention that can take care of house fires. Look, it's a fire extinguishing ball, a self-activating device that puts out fires by detonating a special chemical powder after coming into contact with flames. It can be installed in various vulnerable points in different parts of your home, in the kitchen, bedroom, laundry room, and so on. But let's get back to those scarily fast and powerful avalanches. There's another thing that can save your life if you get caught in a snowy wave. It's an air supply system that allows those stuck under snow to breathe freely. This device doesn't require a mouthpiece. Instead, it replaces CO2 in front of the trapped person's face with oxygen, extending the potential survival window to over 90 minutes. Some of the most basic rules for survival in the city go like this: stay alert and stick to busier neighborhoods if you can. And still, sometimes alarming situations are unavoidable. A siren ring can help you stay safe. This quite stylish and sophisticated ring conceals a miniature alarm system. When activated, it emits a shockingly loud sound. This sound exceeds 110 decibels, which is as loud as a working jackhammer, and can be activated within 2 seconds. If you're lost in a forest and get extremely thirsty, you might be ready to quench your thirst even from a dirty river. In this case, Life Straw can save your life. This water purification system requires no batteries or electric power. It removes almost all waterborne bacteria, allowing you to drink directly from streams, rivers, or lakes. But keep in mind that Life Straw doesn't remove chemicals, salt water, heavy metals, or viruses. Carrying a power bank at all times might be slightly inconvenient. Luckily, a wristband power bank has already been invented. It allows you to charge your phone on the go. It looks like a bracelet. You can wrap it around your wrist and wear it with almost any outfit. The device has a mini USB or Apple Lightning plug on the end slotting into the bracelet. I wouldn't say that this next invention could save your life, but it's undoubtedly very convenient. Let me introduce a credit card light bulb. This is a tiny light that fits into your wallet. At first glance, it's an unusual card that looks like a flat incandescent lamp. but it lights up once you push it vertically. And the rest of the card serves as a stand. This cool invention weighs a mere 0.8 ounces and is powered by one tiny battery. Let's say you got stuck in the woods for the night. I've got great news for you. You can turn fire into electricity using wood. All thanks to BioLite Camp Stove. It's light and easy to transport, but it can still cook a meal while charging your gadgets. Thanks to patented thermoelectric technology, the device generates electricity and creates a smokeless campfire that can cook food and boil water in minutes. Another device that looks like a backpack but is actually so much more. What you're looking at is an off-grid solar backpack, perfect for travelers and photographers. It can power your gadgets as long as there's daylight. Just charge its battery with sunlight and use the USB port to keep your devices charged. As for the fabric of the backpack, it's made out of recycled PET, basically soda.
The future holds self-driving cars and flying taxis. In the past, however, we've transported a cat through an underground suction pipe and it survived. Here's how it's all connected and why we humans don't travel in tubes. So this American company named Hyperloop promised for years it would transport people incredibly fast through a vacuum system. Its ambitious plans included rapid trains, capable of traveling at speeds of 700 miles per hour. By comparison, the passenger trains we have available these days can travel on average just 50 to 100 miles per hour. But to everyone's surprise, the company closed down last year. Even though they made prototypes in the Nevada desert, the project had many problems. They needed to build huge tubes that would have been scattered around, even through cities. And the trains couldn't handle turns very well, so the tubes had to be straight. In 2020, the company did a test run with 2 people, going at 107 miles per hour. It was the first successful ride using this technology. Despite this initial success, the company soon announced they'd focus on moving objects instead of people. Does this mean we'll never be able to use this type of transportation for people? Let's look at it historically. Pneumatic tube transport relies on air pressure to push things through pipes. Back in the day, it was used for sending messages and moving small objects in big buildings. Even today, places like hospitals, banks, and stores still use it to quickly send things like medicine and money. Here's how it works. Say you run a store with cash registers. Instead of risking theft by walking cash to a safe, you can send it through tubes. Each register connects to a tube that leads to a safe or cashier's office. All objects would be transported through canisters. They'd snugly fit in the mechanism, then get sucked by a vacuum created by a compressor. Canisters are often sturdy cylindrical boxes made of tough plastic, carrying items weighing up to about 5 pounds and traveling at speeds up to 22 miles per hour. There are limitations to consider. Installing pneumatic tube systems in existing buildings can be challenging, as they require careful planning during the initial design phase. There's also the risk of valuable items becoming stuck or damaged during transport. You can't move around objects that are larger than 5 pounds or so it doesn't eliminate the need for manual labor. For more than half a century, until 1953, the New York City Post Office used a similar system to transport its mail. It was based on pipes that ran underground, up to 6 feet below the city streets. Because it had revolutionary speeds at the time, the people who operated the system were nicknamed Rocketeers. At its busiest, this tube system handled almost 100,000 letters every day, which was a third of all the city mail. The first thing they sent through these tubes was a book wrapped in a flag, along with copies of important country documents. Other funnier objects are rumored to have been sent through this system, including a fake peach meant as a joke or a sandwich. They even sent a cat through one of the tubes once. It's hard to imagine how the cat made it through the system at such a high speed, but it did. Local authorities soon had to let go of this project, though, because of the costs. The New York population also grew larger, and the number of letters became overwhelming for these small tubes. Hyperloop's idea was to transport people using the same principles. Cool as it sounds, it's not new. Images with similar concepts date back to the 19th century. Some say the idea hasn't been properly studied in the 20th century, because large companies are more interested in selling cars. But even with modern technology, a pneumatic tube train is hard to build, mostly because it involves multiple engineering areas and it's expensive. Getting permits would also be difficult. Another issue is that compressed air that's being pushed through a small area translates to a lot of heat, so cooling systems need to be worked into these plans. One potential solution was to put a water tank in each train to catch the heat and turn it into steam at the next stop. Even if the science makes sense on paper, in reality, there's not a lot of space in the small train for a good heat exchange. This means more water, which means more weight, which in turn means less speed. One Asian company, however, claims to have created the fastest pneumatic train earlier this year. In theory, this device could transport someone from New York to Los Angeles in under an hour, or from London to Paris in just 15 minutes. To prove their efforts, they set up a mile-long testing track where the prototype train reached 387 miles per hour. The company considers this test a success, affirming that it proved the seamless interaction between the test tube, vehicle, and track. As they were developing the project, they uncovered troubles of their own. A power outage, leak, fire, or even a simple human error could lead to a disastrous accident. More so, the train's high speed and rapid acceleration could induce discomfort among passengers. Hyperloop trains aside, what might the future of getting around look like? Better ways of moving from one place to another could make our lives easier by reducing time, expenses, and accidents. One idea could be fast trains that float. These speedy vehicles might use strong magnets to hover above the tracks, letting them go fast while making less noise and shaking than regular trains. They're also less likely to get stuck because they don't rub against the tracks as much. These trains also don't need gas, so they're better in terms of resources as well. Instead of engines, they use magnetic fields made by special coils in the walls and tracks to push them forward. Right now, 6 of these lines are up and running in Asia, but soon they might appear in the US too. The first one is planned to connect Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, and later it might stretch all the way to New York. About 20 companies are also exploring the idea of flying taxis. They could transport people in cities with the help of small planes. The idea is to offer safe rides at a fair price, like a $70 trip from Manhattan to Kennedy Airport, without bothering those on the ground below. Challenges here include reducing flight expenses, increased urban noise, and drafting rules about flying over busy cities. Even though some people are still nervous about the idea, it seems that driverless cars are on the way to becoming a reality. Many automobile companies are testing out their prototypes, even though there are still questions about how safe they can be. We don't know yet if the same rules should apply to them as the ones for human drivers. Lots of accidents happen because drivers aren't paying attention, but robots don't get distracted. Driverless cars are supposed to take fewer risks and go slower to keep everyone safe. On the downside, they're expensive, with prices expected to be over $100,000 apiece. Projects including delivery drones have already been implemented too. For instance, a UPS drone brought medicine to people's homes in the U.S. after getting approval from the Federal Aviation Administration. It was a big step forward for drones, even though there are still rules to sort out before they can be used on a larger scale. Drones have to prove they're safe before they can fly freely over people's heads. So, for now, UPS is only using them in rural areas and around hospitals. To solve traffic jams, we might turn to building roads underground and driving our cars through tunnels. This could work better than flying cars because the process is not affected by the weather. One plan is to lower cars down with a big elevator and allow them to circulate on a fast metal platform. The advantages may include faster speeds, since there are fewer risks of accidents from things like wild animals crossing the road. It also might be less expensive, since people are less likely to be stuck in traffic. Not to mention our cities might end up looking a little prettier and less noisy.
If you like playing video games, you know how important it is to be immersed in the story. Whether it's through the graphics, the sounds, or the dialogue, the more the game draws you in, the better the experience is. What if I told you that soon enough you could purchase a gadget that literally allows you to feel the game you're playing. It's in the form of a vest, and it would allow you to have various sensations like rain, wind, fire, and even experience damage. More so, the sensations are spatialized, meaning if you look up, you'll only feel raindrops on your chest. Paired with VR glasses, this combo sounds like the future of video games. We might be able to directly use the sun's power to charge your phones too. There are two types of such gadgets, those that you simply connect to your phone and place in direct sunlight. Then there's the more advanced type, which also features a battery. You can leave it to charge and then use its energy whenever you need to. If you've been on a social media cleanse recently, you've probably missed the tiny AI robot that has taken over the internet. It became so popular because there are 1,000 different ways in which it can interact with you. It can help tune into your favorite music, play online games with you, and even cheer you up when you're down. Not to mention, it can help with household chores. This tiny robot can double up as an alarm clock. It can turn off the lights if you set a certain bedtime, or even take your picture if you ask him to. All the while moving independently and making decisions of his own. Not to mention, he can even get annoyed at you if he's feeling fussy. Fidget spinners used to be all the rave when it came to stress relief a little while back. Well, there's a brand new gadget out there that's like a holographic fidget spinner. This coin can spin smoothly for up to 12 minutes while showing mesmerizing pictures of galaxies. It uses real-life footage to display some of the best images in our universe. Not only that, but it's also a cool object to place on your desk whenever you don't feel like using it. Travel a lot? You might be interested in this next-level travel pillow. It's designed in the shape of a loop and works best for people traveling long distances. Because it's made of sensitive memory foam, it helps to better support your chin while you sleep. Not to mention, you can control the temperature of the pillow, so you'll never feel too hot while wearing it. Travel water bottles are a nice way to stay hydrated when traveling or working out, but cleaning them can be a burden. After a while, most water bottles become too stinky or stained to be used anymore. One cool concept to help with this hassle is a self-cleaning water bottle. That's because it has built-in elements that purify the water and get rid of the bad smells. Thanks to the layers it has inside, you can even gather water from rivers and enjoy it after it's been filtered by the techie bottle. Lastly, it's also insulated to help keep your beverages the desired temperature and cleans itself often, like every 2 hours. Not all of us have houses with a great view, but this futuristic gadget can help a bit if you're yearning for beautiful city lights at your window. That's because this gadget of the future can let you customize your own view. It doesn't matter if you're a fan of the ocean waves or mountain peaks, you can have them both. You can also connect it to your smartphone and replay memories of your own. Calling out all Jetsons fans, flying cars may be closer to us than we imagine. Firstly, because our standard roads are getting pretty crowded with each passing year, it's reasonable to think we'll soon need to look into other means of transportation. There are a lot of flying car concepts out there too. Some look like giant drones, some like smaller airplanes, while others simply look like cars with wings. Other types of flying transportation might be available soon too, like jetpacks. When it was first introduced to the tech market, the touchscreen was revolutionary. But these days, it seems we're getting closer to gesture-based computing. It means simply using your hands to dictate to your computer what to do, without having to use a screen, a mouse, or a pad. A lot of researchers and scientists are already developing innovative technologies on the subject, like those at the MIT Media Lab that recently introduced a digital display featuring a pin screen. This pin screen is simply a sheet of dull pins that takes the shape of a 3D object when pressed against it. Until then, some devices do allow us to use our voices to perform certain activities. On the same note, our phones might become obsolete too, since it seems that wearable screens are already on their way. Sure, we might be enjoying foldable phones now, but the future does look to be screenless. This technology involves using projectors that are also touch capable. You might be able to project your screen directly onto your clothes or hands. But who's to say we couldn't have something implanted directly into our skin to make it wearable also? Imagine walking barefoot without damaging your feet. It's possible these days. You'll just need these weird-looking pairs of shoes. They look like they're made out of chainmail, but they don't make any noise and won't rust in the future. They also provide insulation and don't make any metallic noises when walking in them. 3D printers are being used for all sorts of technologies these days, but can you imagine being able to also 3D print food? For now, food 3D printing is limited to certain textures and consistencies like purees, mousses, or ganache. Also, for now, 3D food printers don't actually cook the food, they just assemble it. Nevertheless, there are a lot of high-end restaurants out there that are already experimenting with food 3D printing. And speaking of meals of the future, we might soon be introduced to a fridge that orders food for us. It scans its containing bottles and jars and sends a list of groceries to your local e-market, so you'll never be out of your favorite snacks. More so, it lets you know if something's gone bad and you need to take a trip to the garbage disposal bin too. It's way better for our eating habits also. Most people say they're tempted to buy unhealthy food because they go to the store on an empty stomach. Since you won't be going shopping at all and only have specific items delivered to you, your pants might soon start to fit better as well. Continuing the list of smart household items, you might be soon introduced to the toothbrush that can chat with your dentist. Sure, that feels a bit like a betrayal, but if it can help with preventing cavities or plaque buildup, why not? We already have smart toothbrushes on the market with built-in sensors that check if you're washing your teeth correctly, so you shouldn't be surprised if they add this feature in the future too. On that same note, owning smart mirrors may soon be the first step in taking care of our health. Just by taking a quick look in the mirror, this futuristic gadget can perform a quick scan to see if you're looking pale or have really bad dark circles. Based on these cues, it can suggest underlying problems or inform you when it's time to go see a specialist. Robotic exoskeletons are already available for some workers to give them extra strength and abilities. But in the future, they might also be useful for those who have problems with walking, for example. Sure, we do have some simpler technologies for now, but providing people with their full range of motion with this technology might soon be available. One really creative company has been experimenting with ways to use sand for creating energy and turn it into batteries. Since sand can heat up to 930 degrees Fahrenheit, it can be used to store energy. When needed, it can be discharged and warm the water and environment.
Have you ever tried riding your bike over nails? I guess it wasn't your intention, but if it happened at least once, you don't want to live through that experience again. Now imagine you'd have to ride your bike on Mars. Its surface is covered with rocks, canyons, volcanoes, dry lake beds, craters, and red dust. That combo makes those nails look totally harmless. No wheels we use down on Earth will do the trick, so NASA has been working on developing the perfect ones for use on the Moon or Mars since the 1960s. They tried smooth rubber tires with inner tubes full of nitrogen, large flexible wire mesh wheels, and airless compliant tires made of several hundred coiled steel wires, the spring tire, but nothing was good enough for the challenging cosmic terrains. The wheels of Mars Curiosity rover only lasted a bit over a year before they got seriously damaged. The rover's tires faced two big problems. First, they had to be strong enough to carry the enormous weight of the vehicle. Engineers tried to make it the most efficient vehicle for exploration, different from previous models that worked on the Moon and on Mars before it. That's how it ended up being so heavy. A big, heavy car needs durable tires, you know, And of course, the surface of Mars is no walk in the park. The engineers tried to make tires out of aluminum, which is a lightweight and strong material, but the wheels got shredded soon. The damage didn't prevent curiosity from doing its job, but it did affect how efficient it was. And that's where the new, reinvented wheel rolled in. NASA decided to replace aluminum with a material called shape memory alloy. It's made of a unique type of metal called nitinol, a blend of nickel and titanium. Unlike other materials that bend out of shape under pressure or heat, this cool substance reverts back to its original shape on its own in the same circumstances. Nitinol is the hero up on Mars, but it's also useful down on Earth. Just imagine your tires never getting punctured again. Sounds good to me. One company decided to use this tech on their bikes. The tires are tube-shaped and squash down when you roll over a bump. They will develop perfect shape memory over time. They're supposed to work best on gravel, trail, and mountain bikes. The metal surface is covered with a rubbery outer layer. When it wears off eventually, the company plans to retread the tires to make them last for years. The previous airless tire models were made of patented foam that was supposed to last for up to 5,000 miles. They didn't take off because they made the bike too heavy. The new model is supposed to solve that problem. Nitinol also works great in the field of heart surgery. Tubes made of it can expand to the desired width under certain temperatures in the human body. The tire isn't the only object that works better with shape memory. If you can't imagine your sleep without that comfy memory foam mattress, you can send a thank you note to NASA for it. Its history goes back to 1966, when they decided to customize seats for astronauts to somehow ease the effects of G-force on takeoff and landing. Creating a custom seat for every flight seemed way too impractical, so memory foam saved the day. It easily adjusted to astronauts' body shape and went back into a rest state when not in use. In the 1980s, it went from space down to the earthly public. Now it's in mattresses, pillows, amusement park rides, horseback saddles, and football helmet liners. The third-generation memory foam has gel particles and viscofoam inside. That's the secret to its superpower of reducing trapped body heat, springing back up in no time, and making the mattress feel soft as a cloud. The name says it all, but in case you ever had your doubts, space blankets were indeed invented by NASA with space in mind. Back in the 1960s, they were preparing for the space era and looking for a thin, reflective metallic material that would protect their spaceships from solar radiation. And they managed to design just the perfect material MPET, strong enough to be used as insulation to protect expensive space electronics from temperature swings. Ever since, it has been an important part of nearly every mission to and beyond the orbit of our planet. It's also used in spacesuits to protect astronauts from radiation and the sun's heat once they venture into open space. Down on Earth, space blankets are the best friends of marathon runners. Since body temperature drops after they stop running, they need something to help bring it back to normal. And the magical space blanket material can also protect your phone from extreme heat and cold when used as an insulation layer in a phone case. In the early 1960s, headsets for airline pilots used to be really bulky. They often had to use handheld mics to communicate. NASA needed a more reliable and lightweight technology for their missions to make sure the communication would go without any problems. In 1961, the Liberty Bell 7 capsule splashed down, and astronaut Gus Grissom nearly sank without radio transmission or contact with his recovery team. NASA reached out to a manufacturing company to design a headset that could be planted into an astronaut's helmet. Just 11 days later, the team came up with a microphone headset unit that could be used by astronauts to communicate with one another and with Earth. It even had a noise-canceling feature. The headset was later improved and used for Mercury and Apollo missions. The world was able to hear Neil Armstrong's most famous phrase as he landed on the moon thanks to that wireless headset. Freeze-drying tech for food was not created but greatly improved by NASA to pack more snacks on long Apollo missions. During the first human missions, astronauts had to eat bite-sized cubes, freeze-dried powders, and squeeze semi-liquids out of aluminum tubes. Doesn't sound like a festive meal, right? The astronauts weren't happy about this diet, so NASA had to think of a better solution for the Gemini missions. They funded research that ended in developing special gravies that could go into edible shape in hot water in just 5 minutes. The idea of freeze-drying is to cook food, then freeze it under low pressure, and then slowly heat it in a vacuum chamber to remove ice crystals. Thanks to this tech, food maintains 98% of its nutritional value, with only 20% of its original weight. NASA kept improving the tech in the following decades. Now, freeze-dried food is a great help for backpackers, disaster relief programs, and anyone who needs to pack light and still get proper nutrition. The infrared thermometer that lets us check temperature from a distance was developed with the support of NASA as well. It measures thermal radiation emitted by your eardrum, a lot like they measure the temperature of stars and planets. Each device has a lens that focuses light from the object onto a special detector that converts radiation into an electrical signal and then into temperature that you can see on a display. It's used for many purposes, from monitoring hotspot temperatures in mechanical and electrical systems to checking the temperature of visitors in public places. I bet you didn't see this one coming. The technology behind selfies comes from that designed for interplanetary missions cameras. In the 1990s, one of NASA Labs, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, introduced a light mini imaging system that didn't need a lot of energy to take high-quality photos from space. This tech is used in cell phone and computer cameras, and if we go back to the 1960s, we'll find some good evidence that the whole idea of selfies could belong to astronauts. Edwin Buzz Aldrin, the second man to walk on the moon, took some selfies up there with a specially designed Hasselblad camera. He even used the spacecraft as a tripod to stabilize the image and get his face in it. Remember this if you ever end up in space with no one to take photos of you.
They say, whoever they are, the future is just around the corner. Well, no, the future is already here. And these cool new inventions are here to prove it. Who knows? They might just help save you as well as the planet. Now, this robot is unstoppable. And don't worry, it's not going to take over the world or anything. Probably. The thing you are looking at is called a vine robot. What distinguishes it from other soft robots is that it's super tenacious when it comes to making it through difficult terrains and tight spaces, which makes it appropriate for missions like search and rescue. The idea for this device actually came from real vines. The inventors were inspired by how a vine moves and grows, so they started thinking about ways they could replicate the same movement robotically. Eventually, they came up with a simple and elegant design that doesn't require any expensive materials. All they needed was some airtight tubing. Remember the water wiggle toys? I do. The mechanism of their soft robot acts just like that. Then, to make it grow out from the tip, they used compressed air. And just like that, the basics of their invention were ready. It's so easy that you can build one yourself in as little as a minute. Aside from being easy to replicate, their design comes with other advantages as well. It can enter gaps 1/4 of its original size. Sticky surfaces and sharp objects don't really affect it as long as the air pressure is continued to be applied. The inventors, of course, have upgraded their design and created different versions so that the robot will be able to perform various tasks. For example, they added a camera to the robot's tip, which made it ideal for things like archaeology. And the robot was even taken to the Andes Mountains of Peru to investigate some very narrow shafts underneath an archaeological site, and was able to explore 3 of the tunnels successfully. However, the use of vine robots will not be limited to underground. It might be possible to use them for space exploration as well. When blown into something like sand, compressed air fluidizes. In return, this allows the vine robot to burrow into granular materials. So, NASA can use it to study the surfaces of other planets. But it has one more application. A miniature version of vine robots can potentially be used for medical procedures, such as intubation too, making the process faster and easier. Talk about being multifunctional. Can you think of anything else it can be used for? Now, these capsules are not for swallowing. Tiny houses and van life have been the hype for quite some time now. but vans require gas, and tiny houses require some sort of infrastructure. Eco-capsules, on the other hand, require nothing. These egg-shaped micro-units are 100% self-sustainable living pods that give you the freedom to place them wherever you like and to live off-grid without causing any harm to nature. If all non-renewable energy sources were to end today, you could still be able to live the life you're used to in the eco-capsules for up to several months. So, no need to go all survivor mode immediately. Eco-capsules can also be used as scientific research stations or even remote hotel rooms. They are 88 square feet and are equipped with a smart home system. They come with sleeping space for two, a kitchenette, shower and toilet, storage space, and even electrical outlets. They create their own electricity using a combination of a wind turbine up on a telescopic pole and a roof that is lined with solar panels. Their unique shape allows them to collect rainwater. The rainwater that falls on their surface is gathered in their tanks, where it is then filtered and becomes ready for use. In case there are no rainfalls for a while, the tanks can still be filled from any water source, such as a lake or a river. And in terms of drinking water, additional filters are installed directly on the faucets. The greatest thing about eco-capsules is that they have almost zero emissions and zero ecological footprint. So every eco-capsule inhabitant will basically be taking part in saving the world while they're living in it. This magnetic slime robot may look disgusting and frightening, but it definitely is game-changing. The blob-like robot is made of a water-soluble synthetic polymer, borax, and magnet particles. It is a non-Newtonian fluid that has viscoelastic properties, which means it can act both as a liquid and a solid depending on the level of pressure that's being applied to it. Accordingly, when you touch it quickly, it acts as if it's solid, and when you touch it gently and slowly, it acts as if it's a liquid. Hey, turn the pressure on me and I melt into a puddle, so I'm familiar with this. The tiny particles of magnets within the slime give it the unique ability to move. They can be controlled to make the robot travel, rotate, or form different shapes, such as a C or an O. There's no limit to which direction it can move, and from the looks of it, nothing can stop it from going. It can navigate passages that are as tiny as 0.06 of an inch, move around objects, and reach speeds of 1.2 inches per second. What's even more groundbreaking is that it can stretch 7 times up to its original length, grab onto multiple things simultaneously, and even extend tentacles in different directions. It's shown to be able to conduct electricity and pull wires together, which gives it the capacity to switch and repair circuits. In the future, the creators of the slime hope that it can be used for medical procedures, such as retrieving objects from the digestive system that are swallowed by accident. Sorry, I can't help myself. In addition, if the swallowed object is something toxic, like a small battery, the slime can also hypothetically be used to wrap around it and prevent toxic electrolytes from leaking out into the body. However, the magnetic particles inside the slime are actually toxic themselves, but the researchers have coated them with silica to make the robot safe for this hypothetical application. The coolest thing about the slime robot is the fact that it is self-healing. That means it can bring itself back together even if it is chopped apart, without the help of external sources, and it can maintain its electrical capabilities after healing too. These all sound like some science fiction stuff, but you can relax since the slime is not sentient, at least for now. This is the transparency we all need. When you think of solar panels, you immediately picture large black squares that are mounted on rooftops, right? Well, transparent solar panels are here to change that. Solar panels create energy by absorbing sunlight and converting it into electricity. If the material they are made of is transparent, that means the light will completely pass through them. Accordingly, a transparent solar panel used to be something of a contradictory idea. However, in 2014, Scientists from Michigan State University were able to come up with a solution to this contradiction and develop a fully transparent luminescent solar collector that can turn any glass sheet or window into a solar cell. These transparent solar concentrators are composed of clear organic salts. They capture the wavelengths of the solar spectrum that are not visible to the human eye, like the ultraviolet and infrared, while allowing the normal visible light to pass through. These captured wavelengths are then guided to the edges of the cell, where thin strips of conventional solar cells convert them into electricity. The researchers are hoping to make solar energy affordable, therefore widespread. So much so that they are also looking into using transparent solar cells as screens for smartphones or tablets. No more rushing to the charger once you see the 1% on the battery symbol. It's expected that the transparent solar cells will be able to deliver a 10% efficiency once mass production begins. This doesn't appear to be much, but if these panels can be implemented on every window of every home or office building, imagine. They can, for sure, help to change the future.
No need to reinvent the wheel, they say. Funnily, it's been recently reinvented. There's a bicycle with square wheels. And it's not a modern art object stored in a fancy museum. Nope. It's a totally functioning, everyday means of transportation. And yeah, it goes smoothly. Here's a secret behind this weird bike you gotta know. These square wheels don't actually rotate. Take a closer look at their design. The outside of the wheel is fitted with a track, and it's that track that moves around the entire frame, not the wheel. So, as the rider pedals, the track moves and rotates around the frame. It reminds me of a treadmill, and technically, both the treadmill and these square wheels work pretty much in the same way. Well, this invention looks pretty safe, I guess. Now look at this weird U-shaped robot. What do you think it's made for? A new toothbrush designed by a French company called WOWCube claims to thoroughly clean teeth. Well, it does save a bit of time. Usually, the dentists say that you have to clean your teeth for about 2 minutes twice a day. This device can clean all of your teeth in only 10 seconds. The toothbrush, which was first introduced at the Consumer Electronics Show in 2017 and is now available on Amazon for US customers, features 35,000 soft nylon filaments that brush all teeth simultaneously at a 45-degree angle. While the American Dental Association recommends brushing teeth twice a day for 2 minutes using a soft bristled toothbrush, the WOWCube was developed with the assistance of dentists over 4 years and is available in adult and kid sizes. It's not that easy to change the color of your car. It takes a lot of time, effort, and expertise to do that. But it seems like soon it won't be an issue any longer. Meet a color-changing car. Do you want it blue today? No problem. Maybe you prefer red. Easy peasy. About a year ago, BMW presented a concept, but they went from a monochromatic concept to a veritable rainbow of various shades and tints in just a year. Check out this electric sports sedan concept. It's called iVision D. And it's like a sneak peek into the future with all sorts of cool tech, like virtual assistants powered by AI and heads-up displays on the windshield. And get this, they even threw in a full-color version of e-ink technology, something we've never seen before from last year's concept. How rad is that? So, there are some smart folks over at the University of California, San Diego, who are working on a cool new wearable device. This gadget can actually generate a bit of electricity from the sweat on your fingertips. And get this, it even works while you're dozing off. The way it works is by touching objects with your fingertips, like typing on your phone or playing the piano. Apparently, doing these things can help produce more energy. After some testing, the engineers found that wearing the gadget for 10 hours while snoozing can generate enough juice to power an electronic watch for a full day. That's about 400 millijoules of energy, in case you were wondering. Pretty neat, huh? Did you know that around 3 million people in the UK and millions more worldwide are affected by color blindness? Crazy, right? It's more common in guys, with 1 in 12 males being affected. But it still affects 1 in 200 women too. Basically, color blindness happens because of how our brains process visual information and how our retinal cone cells react to light. It makes it tough to tell the difference between colors because they all kind of blend together. But fear not. After over a decade of research and testing, the amazing Enchroma sunglasses were created. These glasses have lenses that filter out specific light wavelengths, which helps fix the overlap issue. So now, people with color blindness can finally see the world in all its colorful glory. I gotta say, this invention is cool. But recently, even cooler glasses have been invented. They were created by some brilliant researchers at Oxford University to help people who are blind or have limited vision. These glasses for augmented reality are designed to provide wearers with helpful information about their surroundings so they can confidently navigate their daily lives. It's amazing how this technology can give people a whole new perspective on the world and help them experience life to the fullest. We all know that plastic waste is a major problem. It's messing with marine life and our environment in all sorts of ways once it gets into the ocean. But check this out. Scientists from the University of Chemistry and Technology in Prague are trying to fix it with self-propelling microbots. These little guys are about the size of a red blood cell, and they use solar energy to move around and chow down on microplastics. It's like a sci-fi movie coming to life. And get this, they're actually making a difference. You can see them zipping around in this pic with the blue spots representing the microbots. The dangerous plastics are getting broken down, and the environment is getting cleaned up using visible light. Unlike all the previous ideas mentioned in this video, this one gained neither success nor recognition. Back in the day, dudes were all about the walrus mustache and beard combo. But then, like most trends, it faded away. Suddenly, it was totally cool to be clean-shaven. But let's be real, who has time for that kind of morning routine? That's why hitting up the local barber for a quick shave and shoe shine became the norm. The only problem? Barbers could only serve one customer at a time. So, some genius came up with the idea of a group shaving machine. Picture this, a row of dudes sitting side by side with the machine applying foam to all their faces at once. Then, a giant blade would come in and trim all their facial hair in one fell swoop. In theory, this bad boy could shave 12 dudes at a time. But, as with most things in life, there were some downsides. The machine couldn't adjust to different face shapes, so some guys ended up with uneven shaves. And the worst case scenario? Cuts and abrasions from that giant blade. Ouch. One more mustache-related invention. Back in the Victorian era, men were serious about their appearance. A proper gentleman knew that a well-groomed mustache was the key to success. But with great facial hair comes great responsibility. How could a man protect his prized possession from hot or frothy drinks? A man could use the mustache cup, invented by a British potter named Harvey Adams. But that wasn't enough for Reuben P. Holinshed, who patented an even better invention in 1890, a mustache guard that suspended a gentleman's mustache out of harm's way while he ate and drank. It may look a bit painful, but hey, anything for the perfect stash. The tipping culture varies from country to country. In the USA, it's extremely rude not to tip, while in Japan, it's extremely rude to tip. How crazy is that, huh? But did you know that in the 50s, there was an automated tip requester invented? I wonder how they advertised it. It probably was something like, "Introducing the ultimate invention for all the lazy hotel bellhops out there, the automatic tip requester. Now you won't have to grimace in case you're not satisfied with the tips. The machine will do it for you." Okay, jokes aside, Let's dive into its history. It was by an amateur inventor named Russell E. Oakes. The device itself comes equipped with an artificial hand and cash box, and can be strapped around your waist for maximum convenience. And if a guest's tip isn't up to snuff, no worries. Just flash the "no sale" sign and move on to the next sucker. Who needs human interaction when you've got a robotic money grabber on your side? You're standing on the roof of a control tower at the airport. You see a huge plane coming in for a landing. It's whizzing over your head, but all you hear is the wind whistling. The first sound the plane makes is the scraping of the tires against the asphalt. That's because this giant airplane runs on electricity. It doesn't need to burn tons of fuel. And it doesn't attract the attention of passersby with its noise as it flies over the city. But engineers predict that all-electric airplanes won't appear for another couple of decades. For now, the Dreamliner 787, which can carry 310 passengers and emits no pollution, remains a sweet dream for designers. Let's jump back in time to 140 years ago. In 1883, a French aviation enthusiast made the first ever electric-powered flight. He installed an electric engine on the dirigible. The problem was that the engine weighed as much as a big motorcycle. So, the dirigible couldn't fly long distances and lift many passengers. Okay, back to our time. The problem of heavy engines and batteries remains unsolved. 1 pound of regular airplane fuel contains 60 times more energy than 1 pound of even the most advanced battery. So we'd have to increase the airplane's tank by 60 times and fill it with batteries. But now, the plane is much heavier and it can barely take off. So we have to remove a lot of necessary things from the plane, like several rows of seats, toilets, and all the drinks and snacks, so the plane loses some weight. And now, shove more batteries into all the empty places. The plane can take off now, but it can't land. The plane is designed to take off with a full tank and land with almost nothing. Otherwise, its landing gear just can't take the load and breaks when it touches the ground. So, if the plane needs to make an emergency landing right after takeoff, it'll have to circle over the airport until it's burned enough fuel. It's allowed to land only when it reaches a certain weight. But in the case of batteries, the weight of the plane doesn't change during the flight. So designers had to find another solution. Let's drive this little single-engine airplane into a hangar and take out the old fuel-burning engine, exhaust system, and fuel tank. Replace them with an electric engine, which is much smaller and lighter. Pack all free spaces with batteries. The weight of the final version of the plane should remain exactly the same as the original plane. So now, it can take off and fly without any problems. But it can only do that for short distances. And that's a huge advantage of electric planes. About half of all flights in the world are under 500 miles. There's a lot of flights over distances like that, from New York to Washington, D.C., or from Detroit to Toronto. It's less than 200 miles. And there are huge passenger planes flying on those flights. They take off, gain altitude, and then immediately land. Using these gas burners at such short distances is like putting a huge freight elevator in a 2-story house. It's not profitable and it doesn't make sense. All the conventional airplanes in the world emit about 1 billion tons of CO2 a year. So we can reduce the amount of damage to the environment by half by using electric planes. Many designers are trying to convert some planes into electric ones. For example, the Cessna 208B E-Caravan. The normally 9-seat passenger plane now uses an electric engine. As of 2020, it's undergoing certification. This means that every bolt and wire on the plane is tested for safety. This process could take years. ES-19 is an all-electric 4-engine airplane. The aluminum hull makes it extremely light. Although the price per unit is about $8.8 million, its maintenance costs are 90% less than regular airplanes. And electric power for the plane itself is 50 to 75% cheaper than standard fuel. It'll be able to cover distances of about 220 miles. It's great for traveling in Europe or between remote islands. And it can use runways no longer than 2,500 feet. Given that these planes are practically silent, airports could be built close to city centers. This would cut travel time almost in half. Eviation Alice has taken another step into the future. This 9-seat plane is made almost entirely of composite materials and powered by 3 engines. The inverted boat shape and V-shaped tail make its aerodynamics perfect. It has the length of a school bus and the wingspan as wide as a basketball court. Its maximum takeoff weight is like 2 SUVs. 60% of that weight is batteries. This gives it the ability to fly distances of about 620 miles. That's more than the distance from New York to Detroit. The best thing about the Eviation Alice is the economy. Flying 9 passengers and 2 crew at top speed will cost about $200 an hour. For conventional planes of the same class, like Cessna and Beechcraft, that number would be about 5 times bigger. The problem of short-range flights can be solved by a network of abandoned airports in the United States. There are about 2,000 of them and 5,000 public airports. Each of them can be equipped with a charging station, just like a gas station. A half hour at a charging station for Alice would be equal to 1 hour of flying in the air. So while passengers are getting off and on and their luggage is being loaded, the plane can build up enough energy to fly. So, small planes are good as an air taxi or private jet, but you need at least 20 Eviation Alice planes to replace a full-fledged Boeing 737 with 180 passengers. The price for one electric bird is $4 million. So that's $80 million versus $100 million for one Boeing. So, the Alice wins again. Zunum Aero tried to build an electric plane that could carry 50 passengers. The company first went for a 12-seat ZA-10 airplane. It was a hybrid powered by the combined work of traditional and electric engines. Engineers relied on evolving batteries and predicted that their plane would be able to travel 1,000 miles. So it could fly from LA to Seattle on a single charge. And it would only have to cost $500,000 more than Alice. The big 50-seat plane should have worked on the same principle. But the company lost funding before they could introduce the finished plane. Maybe we can create an all-electric plane that doesn't have any moving parts at all. It would use ionic wind. MIT engineers created a lightweight model of an airplane with a wingspan of about 16 feet and no engine. There's a metal structure similar to a fence between the wings of the plane. A battery powers this structure with negatively charged electricity of 40,000 volts. There's the same structure in the back of the wing, which was positively charged. When the structure is powered, its front end captures negatively charged electrons from the air, just like a magnet. The electrons then fly toward the positively charged structure at the back. As the ions move, they collide with air molecules millions of times. This creates thrust, just like a regular airplane. And as it moves, it keeps charging the particles in the air and pushing them back. Engineers from MIT did about 10 test flights. Their plane was able to fly almost 200 feet on ion thrust. But their model airplane only weighed 5 pounds, and it flew without a pilot. The lightest manned airplane in the world, the BD-5J, weighs 7 times more, so it should have giant wings to fit this metal structure for ion thrust. And the voltage in that structure would have to be much higher to create enough thrust to let the plane take off. So this technology needs many years to develop and refine before it can be tested on real-scale airplanes. Right now, one of the most reliable and economical electric engine schemes is to work together with traditional propellers or turbines. An airplane can use an electric motor for a quick and quiet takeoff. It'll gain altitude and leave the airspace of a densely populated city. Then, it'll start the main engines, which run on fuel combustion. This will allow the plane to reach high speed and fly a long distance. During this time, the plane's batteries will be charged by the generator powered by the main engine. When it's time to land, the main engines stop, and the plane lands completely silently with the electric engine. So, we're gradually moving toward making airplanes fully electric and silent. Then we can locate airports closer to city centers. This will save travel time and reduce the amount of harmful gases emitted into the Earth's atmosphere.
We have water, food, fresh air, and stunning landscapes thanks to nature. But it also contributes to the development of modern technologies. People create incredible inventions inspired by different animals and plants. Let's find out which ones. The hook and loop fastener on our clothes appeared thanks to the burdock plant. In the distant 40s of the last century, Swiss engineer Georges de Mastrel was walking with his dog and noticed that several burrs clung to his pet's fur. The scientist decided to study the plant carefully and saw small hooks that allowed it to stick to many surfaces. Inspired by their design, George created a fastener for clothes, patented it, and called it Velcro. To make solar panels efficient, a team of scientists from Princeton University paid attention to plants. Their leaves are covered with small folds directed toward the light. This allows plants to receive and absorb much more energy. Researchers created solar panels with similar designs. The result exceeded all expectations. The folds on the surface of the device increased the panel's efficiency by almost 50%. The lotus inspired scientists to create a self-cleaning paint. Beautiful plants floating in the water can effectively repel moisture from the surface of their leaves thanks to a unique coating. Any liquid rolls off the leaf without catching on. At the end of the 20th century, one German construction company used this natural technology to create a unique paint. As soon as it dries, the product gets covered with a texture similar to that of a lotus. Thanks to this, the paint can repel dust, moisture, and dirt. Thanks to their disguise, tigers, toads, chameleons, and many other animals can catch lunch. And some herbivores use it to hide from their enemies. Inspired by these amazing features, people created camouflage. Clothing of this color works because many animals can't distinguish similar color patterns from afar. One of the most effective predators in the world is the dragonfly. It doesn't have big fangs and claws, and it's not covered with a thick layer of armor, but almost all its attempts to catch prey are successful. No animal in the world has the same efficiency in hunting as a dragonfly. And its speed and flight flexibility help it in this. These insects can take almost any position in the air, conduct many flight maneuvers, and change their speed in a fraction of a second. And all this is possible thanks to some of the most efficient wings in the world. A dragonfly can reach the average speed of a car moving along a city road with 3 flaps of its wings. The braking distance of this creature is almost 0. 2 pairs of long, narrow wings in the middle of its body move independently, allowing the dragonfly to catch any target and fly away from any enemy. Scientists and engineers couldn't miss such a design created by nature. One of the leading helicopter manufacturing companies was inspired by the shape of the dragonfly's wings. Look at the blades of most of these flying machines and the wings of this insect. They have almost the same shape. Modern copters partly copy their technology from the flight of a dragonfly. Moreover, this insect's physical form helped NASA engineers create a unique spacecraft for a voyage to Titan in 2027. The mission, called Dragonfly, is an expedition to Neptune's satellite that will be carried out on a multi-rotor device resembling the insect. Titan's atmosphere is 4 times denser than Earth's, so studying this planet requires a device with the dragonfly's high maneuverability and speed. Why did comic book authors get inspired by a spider to create a superhero crawling on walls, but scientists didn't? Because there are animals that can stick to smooth surfaces much more effectively. And one of these animals is a gecko. If you look at its paws under a microscope, you will see that they're covered with hundreds of tiny bristles. And these bristles consist of hundreds of smaller ones. When these tiny hairs come into contact with any smooth surface, their molecules mix with this material. It leads to the creation of an electrical voltage between these molecules. This unique technology allows geckos to stay on the wall or ceiling even if you attach a bag with extra weight to them. In 2014, a team from Stanford University used a similar technology to create sticky gloves and foot tips. A person who used this invention could climb a glass wall. Just imagine if these gloves became popular and were sold all over the world. In fact, it's a good thing that it didn't happen, because people would put themselves in serious danger. In Japan, there are ultra-fast trains that can reach the speed of 275 miles per hour, which is a bit faster than the speed of a Formula One car. Everything was fine with this train except for the fact that it made loud noises when entering and leaving tunnels. People in residential areas complained about the noise, and the train engineers needed to come up with a solution urgently. One little bird with a long beak and colorful plumage solved the problem. This beautiful creature is the kingfisher. It hunts fish and produces almost no splashes when it dives into the water. Its smooth, sharp beak expanding closer to the head provides the kingfisher with a smooth entry into a lake or pond. The shape of the beak of this silent hunter inspired scientists to create the same form for a high-speed train. This design allowed the train to travel 10% faster and consume 15% less electricity. But most importantly, it became much quieter than it was and stopped disturbing the locals with its noise. We travel by plane thanks to birds. A few centuries ago, Leonardo da Vinci, inspired by these animals, drew the first flying device. A few centuries later, birds' anatomy became the rule model for the world's first airplane, invented by the Wright brothers. They had been studying birds in the sky for a long time before going there themselves. They noticed how air increases its lifting force when it flows around the bends of birds' wings. The brothers also saw that these feathered creatures warp their wings to maintain balance in the air. The inventors designed their first aircraft, the Wright Flyer, with wings that could change their position. Over time, the shapes of airplanes became more and more perfect, moving further away from the aerodynamic anatomy of birds. But none of this would have happened if we hadn't looked with admiration at these flying creatures. We can surf the cold waves of the ocean and not freeze, thanks to the new technology of wetsuits inspired by beavers. But first, let's see how a regular wetsuit works. Water fills the thin space between the skin and the suit. Then, this layer heats up because of the heat of the body. Many bubbles of nitrogen inside the suit help to keep this heat. Thanks to this technology, you don't freeze so much in icy water. But beavers use an even cooler method. Their thick fur traps air between thin hairs. Then this air heats up, warmed by the beaver's body, and doesn't allow the water to make the skin wet. In other words, even though the wool of the animal gets wet, the beaver remains dry. Engineers from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology created a wetsuit with a thin layer of small rubber villi. It retains warm air as effectively as beaver wool and doesn't allow swimmers to freeze. By simply swimming in the ocean, the humpback whale increases the energy productivity of wind turbines. When their blades met air or water resistance during rotation, their productivity decreased. But scientists figured out how to reduce this resistance after watching the whales. Engineers noticed that these animals moved underwater following a spiral trajectory and paid attention to their fins. Little bumps called tubercles covered them and helped these animals meet less resistance. People installed similar bumps on the blades of wind turbines, which reduced air resistance by 32% and doubled energy productivity.
Pretty soon, you'll be able to charge your phone in your pocket while walking around the house. And meanwhile, your electric car will refuel while just standing in your driveway. Power will run to all your gadgets through the air without any wires whatsoever. I know it sounds a bit sci-fi, but scientists have figured out how to do it. Don't worry, they're not going to zap electricity through the air like lightning. Instead, they'll use something much safer: magnetic fields. Let's say you have a special coil of wire that makes a magnetic field when it gets power. If you bring another coil close to it, that second coil absorbs the energy and turns it into electricity. That means you can power things without plugging them in, like a light bulb that turns on all by itself. And according to scientists at the World Health Organization, these magnetic fields are completely safe. Now, I suspect you've already used an early version of wireless electricity. When you place your electric toothbrush on its charger or the phone on the charging mat, electric energy jumps between them. There's a special coil inside the charger that creates an invisible spinning energy field when it gets electricity from the wall. The toothbrush or phone has another coil inside it that catches this energy and turns it back into electricity to charge the battery. This is called electromagnetic induction, but this method only works for short distances and wouldn't be useful for powering your entire house. Some companies are already working to make this technology perfect and accessible. One company has invented their method to send power through the air called air cord. They use it in real-life products. One cool example is tiny video screens placed next to products in supermarkets with changing images. These screens don't need batteries or power cords. Another gadget that's running on this tech is a smart lock designed by the same company. Normally, smart electronic locks need powerful batteries, but this one stays powered without a battery and gets energy from a wide-charge transmitter in the ceiling. That transmitter is like an invisible power outlet. It works similarly to a TV remote, where you use an infrared beam to control the gadget from a distance. In this case, the transmitter takes electricity and sends it to all gadgets that need power as an infrared beam. The transmitter analyzes each device to see how much power it needs, just like a Wi-Fi router manages the internet for different devices. If no devices need power, the transmitter goes to sleep, but it wakes up now and then to check if anything needs charging. Nikola Tesla, a brilliant inventor and electrical engineer who made significant contributions to the development of electricity, would be really happy to see all this come true. He believed he could build a system that would transmit electricity and communication signals through the Earth's ionosphere all over the world. To prove his idea, he built a special Wardenclyffe Tower in New York. His plan was to use the Earth itself like a giant electrical circuit. In 1899, Tesla traveled to Colorado Springs, known for its big thunderstorms. He built a lab there to test his wireless electricity ideas. The high altitude and frequent lightning storms made it the perfect place for his experiments. Then he returned to New York, and with money from a wealthy investor, he started building the Wardenclyffe Tower. Tesla placed iron rods and copper plates under the tower to help send power through the Earth. There would be a huge metal dome on top of the tower. By 1902, the tower and lab were mostly built, but Tesla ran into funding problems. The Wardenclyffe Tower never worked as Tesla had hoped, and in 1917, it was torn down and sold for scrap. In any case, Tesla's idea only worked for short distances. The farther the electricity had to travel, the weaker it became. Scientists needed a way to send energy over long distances, and they found two viable solutions in the middle of the 20th century: microwaves and lasers. In 1964, engineer William C. Brown flew a tiny helicopter for 10 hours using only microwave power. Then, in 1975, Brown and a NASA scientist, Richard Dickinson, sent 30,000 watts of power over a mile using a research station called Venus. But there was still a problem. Half of the power was lost before it reached its destination. Over the years, technology kept improving. Computers, lasers, solar panels, and transistors became more advanced and opened new horizons for wireless electricity. It could eventually help us switch to cleaner energy from fossil fuels like coal and gas. New Zealand-based company Emrod uses power beaming technology that starts with electricity from the power grid and turns it into microwaves. These microwaves travel through the air from a sending antenna to a receiving antenna, which turns them back into electricity that we can use. But there's a problem. Various kinds of waves work in different ways. Microwaves can travel long distances without losing much power, which makes them great for sending energy to remote islands or factories. But if you try to send microwaves all the way from space, you'd need a receiver the size of a city. Lasers can make the energy beam smaller and more focused, which means the receiver can also be tiny. But lasers can be blocked by things like clouds, fog, or dust. Right now, power beaming won't replace power lines over huge distances, but it could be used for smaller projects like charging flying taxis and delivery drones in the sky, powering robots in cities and factories, and replacing backup generators during emergencies. Countries all over the world are investing in power beaming. Europe is focused on clean energy. The Japanese Space Agency hopes to have a giant solar power station orbiting Earth, collecting sunlight and beaming electricity down to us by the 2030s. This space station could send 1 gigawatt of energy, as much as a big nuclear power plant produces in a year. The space power station is still a work in progress, but the technology is getting better and cheaper. So, in the future, we might have a world where there are no more tangled wires, no more ugly power lines, and even free electricity for everyone. Japanese scientists are now working on another groundbreaking tech, a special machine that can turn sunlight and water into hydrogen fuel. This clean energy source could one day power cars, homes, and even entire cities. The current reactor is as big as a small house. It works by using photocatalytic sheets, which act like tiny solar panels that absorb sunlight and trigger a chemical reaction. This process splits water molecules into oxygen and hydrogen. It allows the hydrogen to be collected and used as fuel. Right now, the process isn't efficient enough to produce hydrogen on a large scale. Most existing methods of making hydrogen still rely on fossil fuels. But the scientists behind this new reactor found a better way. Instead of breaking water apart all at once, which wastes energy, their machine does it in 2 steps. First, it separates oxygen, then it collects hydrogen to make the process smoother and more effective. The team used a special photocatalyst that responds to UV light, and they found that under natural sunlight, the solar energy conversion efficiency was 1.5 times higher than in the lab. In some places with stronger sunlight, the efficiency could be even greater. But still, at its current stage, the reactor only reaches about 1% efficiency, which is far too low for commercial use. Scientists believe that for this technology to become practical, they need to increase efficiency to at least 5%. To make this happen, they need better photocatalysts and larger reactors. And they would also need to find safe ways to handle a tricky byproduct, which is a highly flammable gas created during the process. But if they can boost efficiency, many scientists and companies will start mass-producing this technology, leading to clean, renewable hydrogen energy on a large scale.
Wow! Scientists have achieved quantum teleportation. And you're probably thinking that in the future, you can find yourself on a beach in the Maldives in half a second, getting there right from a snowy village in Finland. Just imagine how much money you'll save on air tickets. But stop. Don't go that far. Scientists have only managed to transfer a piece of quantum information from one quantum computer to another. The distance between them was 6.5 feet. But that piece of information moved as if there was no distance at all. It isn't easy to understand what happened there. To do this, we'll use the most powerful computer in the universe, your brain. So scientists at Oxford have learned how to teleport quantum information. Ordinary information consists of bits, while quantum information consists of qubits. And there's a difference. Imagine a small switch. When it's off, it means 0. When it's on, it means 1. And an ordinary computer works with this information. Qubits represent both 0 and 1 at the same time. That is, until you look at the switch, you don't know if it's on or not. This means that it's in a superposition. And only when you look at it does it take position 1 or 0. So, a quantum computer works with qubits that show superposition. Until you measure a qubit, it's in all positions at once, but after measuring it, it shows 0 or 1. This unique feature allows quantum computers to perform several tasks simultaneously. In the quantum world, if you take an exam, you don't write one task after another. You write all the tasks at the same time. This is the first thing to remember to understand quantum teleportation. The second thing is entanglement. Scientists take 2 particles and entangle them together. This means that they are now connected. If a certain action occurs with one particle, then the same action occurs instantly with the other. Imagine that you have 2 pens. One is blue, the other is red. You put each pen in a separate box. You don't know which box has red or blue pens because you can't see them under the closed lid. The pen in one of the boxes can be both red and blue, like Schrödinger's cat. Next, you pick up one box and take it to the Amazon jungle. You also send the second box to the top of Mount Everest. As soon as you open the box in the jungle and see the blue pen, it immediately becomes clear that the pen on Mount Everest is red. That's what happens to entangled particles. For example, if one of the particles at one end of the galaxy turns red, the twin particle at the other end of the galaxy instantly reacts to this and turns blue, as if there was no distance at all. These twin particles sense each other and react instantly. This transfer of a quantum state from one particle to another is quantum teleportation. But scientists have known about this for a long time. What new things have they discovered now? They used quantum teleportation to operate a supercomputer. Ordinary computers use cables, wireless Wi-Fi, and a local area network to communicate with one another. All these things ensure that information is transferred from one computer to another at a very fast speed. But it's not teleportation. Each transmitted bit of information has a speed at which it moves. But now, thanks to this quantum stuff, scientists can teleport this information instead of transmitting it. Right now, quantum computers are very fragile and heavy. Any awkward movement and they can break. But with the help of quantum teleportation, they can be combined into one powerful supercomputer, even if its parts are at a distance from one another. So far, this distance has been 6.5 feet, but scientists continue to experiment. Okay, we've got it. Two particles react to each other as if distance doesn't exist. But what exactly is teleported in a computer? It seems we need to strain our brains a little more. So, the particle is in a superposition. That is, it can be in all states at the same time until you look at it. Like that box with the pen on Everest. And here's what the scientists did. Imagine that you have a particle of light, photon A. This is the photon you want to teleport. You also have photons B and C, which are already entangled. Photon B is located on the first computer. Photon C is located on the second computer. You remember that photons react to each other. That is, if you measure and look at one photon, the second one will immediately feel it and take the appropriate shape. You're not looking at them right now. Just remember this fact. Then, you take photons A and B and make them interact with each other. You measure this interaction using a special device. After that, you look at photon A, and it loses its superposition. The magical property of the particle disappears. Then you send information about the interaction of photons A and B to another computer. Photon C reads this information and takes the form of photon A. The original photon A disappears and photon C becomes photon A. Okay, but how do scientists make particles entangle? And what does it mean to make photon A interact with photon B? They use special crystals and complex technology to make particles entangled. Complicated scientific things are also used to create the interaction between photons A and B, but let's not overload our brains with these things. Time to take stock. Here's a quick retelling of what happened. Photon A is the one we want to teleport. Photons B and C are entangled in advance. They're like twins. A and B interact with each other. We read A. This information is transmitted to C. C becomes the copy of A, and A disappears. In 2002, scientists managed to teleport a laser beam this way. In 2006, they teleported information from a laser into a cloud of atoms. Don't ask, it already sounds very difficult. In 2012, they teleported a photon from one end of the city to the other. And now, scientists have been able to teleport the quantum state of a qubit between two computers. If this technology develops further, scientists will be able to replace parts in computers without disassembling them. For example, you have something broken in the processor inside a quantum computer. You don't need to dismantle the entire computer, remove the processor, and put a new one in there and put the pieces back together. Thanks to quantum teleportation, the processor can be replaced instantly inside the computer. Okay, this all sounds pretty complicated, but the main question is, will people be able to teleport? There are some problems here. People are much more complex than one particle because every human consists of trillions of particles. In addition, a quantum teleportation model on a human would look like this. Every particle inside every atom, inside every molecule of your entire body is measured in the Alps. All this information is then sent to the pyramids of Giza. And there, based on this information, your double appears, and your body in the Alps gets destroyed. Visually, this is teleportation. You disappear in one place and your identical copy materializes in another. But this moment with the destruction of your original self is a little scary, isn't it? Are our memories, our reactions to certain events, our thinking patterns, our feelings, our experiences, are all these also inside subatomic particles? If we look at ourselves through the prism of the quantum world, will we see only the physical body? What about our spiritual world? Is it possible to equate it with the particle world? Or is it something different? In this case, teleportation with the destruction and appearance of a copy in another place won't work. Yes, another you can teleport to another location, but will it be the real you? And where is the guarantee that after teleportation, some part of you will not be lost? What if you lose a piece of yourself again during further teleportation? I'd say trains and planes look much safer at the moment. Turns out we have some ways to solve the time travel paradoxes. Time travel sounds enticing, but brings with us a lot of problems. Take, for example, the famous grandfather paradox. Imagine that you travel back in time and prevent your grandparents from meeting. This alters the course of history. But how? If you erase their encounter, you cease to exist, so you couldn't even travel back in time to alter the past in the first place. There's also the bootstrap paradox. Let's say we travel back in time and give Beethoven his own compositions before he ever penned them. He gets famous for the very music you provided. But where did it originate? Did you start it? Or was it Beethoven who started it? There are many theories about time travel. One of them involves alternate timelines and parallel universes, like in Back to the Future, for example. If parallel worlds exist, we could hypothetically travel in one where the events unfolded differently, while our original timeline stays the same. This is a beautiful and paradox-free approach, but this is pure sci-fi, as we have no concrete evidence of parallel universes. So what scientists are trying to do instead is to figure out whether time travel is impossible in this one universal timeline. We've been exploring this equation for over a decade and created a fascinating concept called a closed time-like curve, or CTC. Imagine taking a path that forms a loop, bringing it back to where it started, but in time. We know that space-time is like a wobbly piece of cloth which can curve and bend when we place heavy objects on it. In some situations, like near massive objects such as stars or black holes, space-time can be curved. Now imagine an object that's so heavy, with gravity curving the space-time so strongly that it literally loops on itself. If this idea turns out to be real, it could suggest the possibility of traveling back in time in our world line. This possibility is fascinating, but it also creates tons of problems, and scientists may have found the ways to solve them. One of the solutions is that doing paradoxical things can be simply impossible. In this scenario, we assume that the universe has some mechanisms of self-consistency. It means that while you can still travel in time, you're restricted in the actions you can take. For example, you may not be able to go back and alter your family's history, but there's nothing inherently illogical about traveling back in time to simply interact with your ancestors. In this scenario, the universe only forbids you to do logically impossible things. Scientists decided to conduct an experiment to check if it works, and the results were pretty terrifying. The experiment conducted involved the creation of a theoretical time machine. This is also called an in-principle time machine. This wasn't a physical device, but rather a quantum simulation. In the simulation, they attempted to send a photon back in time by a fraction of a second and make it interact with its past self. The goal was to find out what the photon will do Will it destroy its previous self, avoid the interaction, or something else? What happened is that as the photon approached its past self and was getting closer to the point of creating a paradox, the experiment tended to fail more frequently. In other words, it seems like the laws of physics or the fabric of the universe might have some weird built-in mechanisms that prevent time travel paradoxes. In that case, the question is, how does the universe understand what is logically impossible? And how does it prevent us from doing these things? Which is quite scary to think about. There's another theory that the universe allows paradoxical things to happen, but also self-corrects them. Imagine a time traveler going back to stop some health condition from spreading. According to this theory, even if the traveler succeeds, this health condition would find another way to spread, avoiding the paradox. Or maybe we all exist in time loops. These loops allow objects to interact with their past selves while still maintaining a consistent timeline, because there's no beginning point. For example, trying to prevent a historical event could result in accidentally catalyzing the event we were trying to prevent. This idea challenges our understanding of classical physics and free will. But all these ideas are purely theoretical, and to test them, we first need to find the mechanism to actually travel back in time. Talking about practical time travel, we mentioned that space-time curves around very heavy objects. Does it mean that black holes can be portals to the past and the future? Maybe. Black holes are formed when a massive star collapses inward. Their gravitational pull is so intense that even light can't escape. This means they're perfect for bending not just space, but even time itself. You might remember this from Interstellar. Near a black hole, time slows down. This effect is so pronounced that a year near a black hole could translate to decades on Earth. In that case, traveling back to the past using a black hole is theoretically possible. If their gravity twists time so much that it wraps back on itself, creating a closed time-like curve, and you could enter this loop, you'd find yourself on a journey from the future to the past. But there are some problems with this. First, you can only travel into the black hole's past. Second, to enter the loop, you'd likely have to cross the event horizon, the point of no return around a black hole. To escape one, you'd have to travel faster than light, which is currently impossible. So, while black holes might hold the keys to time travel, the journey inside one might be your last. But not everyone agrees that closed time-like curves exist at all. Recent research has shed new light on this topic. The results showed that time can only move forward. The research offered a fresh perspective on how light behaves when it encounters different materials. When light moves through empty space, it travels at a constant speed of 186,000 miles per second. But when it encounters substances like water or glass, its speed can change, causing it to bend or refract. While scientists have equations to describe this behavior, they struggled with the problem of the change of the speed of light at the boundary in different mediums. Well, researchers proposed a solution to this puzzle by reconsidering how light moves through time and space. They figured out that it always remains constant as it travels through different mediums. No matter what the light encounters, it always moves forward in time. This means that light and other waves like it follow the same one-way path through time that we do. Another thing is that light also always saves its momentum, and it always stays the same, pointing forward in time. And finally, even with general relativity and with gravity bending light very strongly, it still keeps pointing forward. It can slow down to the point of feeling like time stopped, but never move backwards. This challenges our previous notions about the relationship between light and time. It implies that time has a definite direction for all waves, making it impossible to reverse. However, their equations have only been tested in one dimension, and experiments are needed to confirm if this theory holds true in reality. Stephen Hawking also disagreed with the idea of traveling back in time. He proposed a theory called the chronology protection conjecture. This idea says that the laws of physics stop time travel on large scales, even when theories like general relativity say it's possible, and that closed time-like curves simply can't exist. Hawking said that traveling back in time would mean creating new matter, which goes against the laws of physics. Although we're far from building actual time machines, if we keep diving into mathematics, we might find the truth one day. You can hear colors. You can see sounds. What? That sounds pretty psychedelic, doesn't it? In fact, scientists can do that in their experiments. But recently, they've discovered something really awesome. How about feeling a solid light? A light that can simultaneously be liquid like water and solid like ice. You need to know quantum physics and chemistry to understand how this happens, or you can watch this video and figure it out. Are you ready to feel like a scientist? Let's go! So, for the first time in history, people have made a supersolid from light. It's a substance that, actually no, it's not even a substance. It's a state of matter that behaves both like a body and like a liquid at the same time. An ordinary solid such as a phone doesn't change its size, direction, and density unless you throw it under a car. But a supersolid changes direction and density while maintaining its structure. That is, the car runs over your phone, it's broken and crushed, but at the same time, it's completely fine. How is this possible? It's all about atoms. Yes, it's hard to imagine, but let's try to delve into this issue. So take a piece of metal, like silver. It's solid, right? Its atoms are lined up in a row and form something similar to a crystal lattice. That is, they don't go anywhere. In a liquid, such as soda, the structure has fluidity. It means that no cell holds the entire soda structure. Atoms just spread out. A supersolid retains its structure and flows at the same time. Don't try to understand it. Feel it. Imagine an ice cube passing through a grate. It doesn't spread, but remains just as solid. It's like that legendary sci-fi movie where a robot made of liquid metal walks through a prison door. But how is this possible? The answer is quantum physics. Cool a substance to absolute zero, which is -459 degrees Fahrenheit. It's incredibly cold, and you're unlikely to come across such a temperature in space, at least not in our solar system. It's so cold that the atoms inside the substance hardly move and begin to show quantum effects. They stop moving chaotically. They start to obey quantum laws. Imagine a crowd of people on a city street. All of them are going in different directions at different speeds. At some point, they suddenly start walking in the same rhythm, as a whole. That's how atoms in a substance create a single quantum field. Scientists call this effect Bose-Einstein condensation. Here's another example. Just to make sure we've got it right. Imagine a party where hundreds of people are dancing. Everyone's listening to different music playing in their headphones. Each person is moving in a different way. Someone is dancing a slow dance with their soulmate, someone is showing breakdance moves, someone is filming a trendy dance for TikTok. They are all atoms that behave chaotically, and then, all of a sudden, they start dancing in the same way, like a big dance ensemble that's been rehearsing a synchronized dance for months. The randomness of atoms is put in order. That's how Bose-Einstein condensation works. Atoms under the influence of low temperatures begin to behave like one large atom. They seem to forget about their individuality and begin to live by the same quantum rules. And this is one of the coolest things in physics. As far as scientists know, such an effect doesn't occur in nature. Bose-Einstein condensation can be created in a laboratory setting. A similar process occurs in neutron stars, but it's still difficult for us to get them and conduct research. So, chaotic particles begin to synchronize and behave as a single whole. They can also pass through one another without friction, like spirits, while maintaining a crystal cage. And the crystal cage is the structure of a solid substance, remember? It's paradoxical, but it works. Imagine two streams of water. They flow toward each other, but they don't collide, as if they were holograms. No splashing, no resistance. Or imagine a group of people standing in rows. This is a crystal lattice. On command, these people can pass one another without touching, but at the same time, they move in concert and retain row forms. Scientists created supersolids before using atoms of various substances such as helium, but this time they used a hybrid of light and matter called a polariton. They managed to do this when they combined photons with quasi-particles called excitons. Yes, it sounds complicated, but that's not the most important part. The cool thing is that now we have a supersolid made up of light. But why do we need it? Studying supersolids allow us to better explore the quantum world. Such knowledge helps people create quantum computers, superconductors, and ultra-light materials. Quantum computers allow you to do ultra-fast calculations. A superconductor can give us light and cheap electricity. And ultralight materials allow you to create simple and reliable things for space. Quantum teleportation, supermotors, and other interesting things can await us in the future, thanks to quantum physics. It all sounds cool, but what about a new kind of matter? How about half ice, half fire? More precisely, it's not a new kind, but a new state of matter that you haven't even heard of. Can ice and fire really exist at the same time? Or is there something else? Let's figure it out. The inside of an ice cube is lined up in perfect order, not only because it's a solid, but also because it's frozen. Something like the supersolid we were just talking about. In contrast to ice, the electrons of a hot gas behave chaotically. So, in the half-ice, half-fire environment, some of the electrons are lined up, and the rest are in complete disarray. How is this possible? All thanks to the spins of the electrons. A spin is the direction of an electron. You can imagine an electron as a tiny compass. Spin is its arrow. For cold electrons, these arrows point strictly to one side. For hot electrons, the arrows behave as if they're inside the Bermuda Triangle, a chaotic movement up and down. So, half ice, half fire forces the spins of electrons to swap places. Imagine a hall where two musical groups are playing. One plays classical music, the other produces heavy metal. And then a conductor comes and makes them switch genres. That is, the rock band starts playing classical music and the orchestra starts playing heavy metal. Half ice, half fire does the same thing. Under a certain influence, the magnetic fields of the elements cause them to change places. Or imagine a class of extroverts who scream, dance, eat, and refuse to learn. The other part of the class consists of diligent students who sit at their desks and do their homework. And then, a teacher appears and makes them quickly switch roles. Extroverts sit down and begin doing their homework, while introverts are allowed to have fun. That's how half ice, half fire works. That is, one of the properties of this material is a sharp transition between the flame and ice. Half ice, half fire becomes half fire, half ice. It's like a switch that throws a substance from one extreme state to another. It sounds cool, but why do people need it? The answer is the same: for quantum technologies. Just think about how quickly and easily you can cool quantum processors. No more fans and no more energy wasted on them. You press the button and the processor gets cold right away. Scientists also study spintronics, a kind of technology where information is transmitted not by electricity, but by the spins of electrons. Yes, it doesn't sound clear, but this is a long story to tell. It's enough to say that this technology will improve the memory of computers, making it super fast. And cooling systems will save resources we spend on giant freezers. Half ice, half fire is similar to a supersolid. In both of them, particles move between the states of order and chaos. It's possible that with such technologies, chaos in our lives will turn into technological order. Who knows? Tattoos have been around for ages, and being officially the oldest form of art, they were there probably even longer than those cute little horse drawings we find in ancient caves. These days, tattoos are skyrocketing in popularity and shedding their old taboos. In fact, about 46% of Americans sport some ink. Still, it's Italy that takes the crown, because around 48% of Italians have tattoos. But what if tattoos weren't just a beauty statement? In fact, they're on the brink of becoming something much more significant, potentially even health trackers. There's a concept of smart pigments. You know how ink gets injected when you're getting a tattoo? These smart pigments may potentially work as health trackers, keeping tabs on vital health metrics like blood sugar, hydration, and UV exposure. Using advanced pigments that respond to biological and environmental changes, these tattoos could eventually replace the need for wearables or implants. Such tattoos might glow under specific lights to warn you of health issues in real time. They can potentially come in handy for astronauts as they could measure radiation exposure. How many brains does a human being have? Normally, we have 2 brains. Surprised? Me too. But recent research reveals that your heart has its own nervous system, often called a mini-brain, which independently regulates its rhythm, separate from the brain. A team of scientists studied zebrafish, uncovering the complexity of this heart network in Nature Communications. Previously, we thought the heart solely followed the autonomic nervous system's commands from the brain. However, it turns out the heart has its own neural network in its outer layers, making it more sophisticated than we believed. According to the lead researcher, this mini-brain is essential for maintaining a steady heartbeat and houses different neurons that perform specific functions, including a group that acts like pacemakers. Ever watched classic sci-fi like Frankenstein and thought, "That's wild"? Well, it may not be as sci-fi as you believed. Researchers have discovered a third state of existence where cells from dead organisms can keep functioning, sometimes even gaining new abilities. Scientists have observed dead frog skin cells transforming into xenobots, which can move and heal themselves. Human lung cells can also self-assemble into anthrobots, tiny organisms that aid in cellular repair. How do these cells continue functioning post-mortem? One theory suggests hidden electrical pathways enable communication. It all depends on conditions like temperature and energy levels. When skin gets hurt, our blood clots kickstart healing. Now, researchers have created a blood-based implant that takes this natural process up a notch, especially for fixing broken bones. They developed a biocooperative regenerative material using synthetic peptides to enhance the structure of blood clots. In tests with rats, this gel-like substance, which can be 3D printed, showed promise in repairing bone damage. If adapted for humans, it could significantly boost our body's healing abilities. Let me translate that from scientific to English. We will soon be able to turn blood into regenerative implants. Those implants will be easy to get, since we all have blood, and they will be almost free because, we all have blood. And it's free for us. The research focused on the solid part of blood clots, known as regenerative hematoma. They created custom molecules called peptide amphiphils that enhance regenerative hematoma's natural functions. When added to blood, these peptide amphiphils sped up clotting and helped form stronger structures. Using peptide amphiphils with rat's blood, the team successfully repaired small skull bone defects. Key repair cells were active in the new material, indicating its effectiveness. In recent years, there's been a lot of buzz about regrowing natural teeth. I mean, modern medicine has cured a bazillion of extremely tough conditions. Yet, we have to shell out a pretty penny each time we go to the dentist. It's weird. Our hair regrows, nails too. Why can't our teeth do the same? Let's break down the research and see when we might actually be able to do this. According to the World Health Organization, about 7% of people over 20 lose all their teeth, and that jumps to 23% for those over 60. In the UK,
around 5% of adults aged 16 and up have no natural teeth. Right now, options for tooth loss include implants, bridges, and dentures, but none of those are real tooth regrowth. Still, researchers have been looking into ways to make it happen, using methods like RNA, stem cells, and mineral regeneration. One exciting development comes from Japan, where researchers at Kitano Hospital announced a new tooth regrowth medicine using RNA to block a molecule called USAG1, which stops tooth growth. They've been working on this for about 8 years. Their theory is that humans have the capability to grow a third set of teeth, and this drug could help activate those buds. The drug showed promise in animal trials and was set to begin human testing in September 2024, with hopes for availability by 2030. Another method involves stem cells. A recent study from India concluded that using stem cells for tooth regeneration is realistic and could also help with bone and soft tissue repair in the mouth. Meanwhile, a team from the University of Washington has developed stem cell-based organoids that can produce dental enamel, a significant step towards repairing damaged teeth. However, there are ethical concerns surrounding stem cell use, especially with embryonic cells. Experts suggest using stem cells from the patient's own body could eliminate some of these issues. An alternative approach is mineral regeneration. A 2019 study created a gel that can repair damaged enamel by forming a new layer of calcium phosphate, the main component of enamel. This method shows promise as a cheap, scalable solution. While progress has been made in tooth regeneration, it's still uncertain when we'll be able to fully regrow teeth. For now, the research is encouraging, but there's a long way to go before tooth regrowth becomes a reality for everyone. Researchers at Cambridge have found that people can quickly learn to use the third thumb, a robotic prosthetic, which boosts manual dexterity. The study highlights the need for inclusive design in tech, ensuring it benefits everyone, regardless of background. The third thumb is worn on the opposite side of the palm and is controlled by pressure sensors under the toes. During a test at the Royal Society Summer Science Exhibition, 596 participants aged 3 to 96 tried the device, with only 4 unable to use it effectively. Participants had a minute to get familiar with the thumb before attempting tasks that involved picking up objects. A whopping 98% managed to use it right away, and performance was consistent across different demographics. While younger kids faced more challenges, older participants showed similar abilities, though performance declined slightly with age. Now, think about something comforting like your granny reading to you. Sometimes we get those memories randomly, without even forcing ourselves. To understand better how it all works, scientists focused on studying the human brain's memory hub, the hippocampus. Traditionally, rodent brains were used to understand brain function, but researchers have discovered significant differences between mouse and human brains. Using advanced techniques, they found that neuron connections in the human hippocampus are fewer but more reliable than in mice.
Perhaps you were walking down the road recently and had to swerve away from a delivery robot. Maybe that robot even apologized for being in your way and wished you a good rest of your day. Or maybe you ordered a package online and had it delivered to you via drone. A good 10 years ago, these things would have seemed unimaginable. But some of us already live these realities, and it seems they're becoming more natural by the second. So, here comes a list of several examples of groundbreaking technology. I bet you'll still have to blink twice to check whether they're real or not. Robots. Now, the robots we used to imagine back in the day looked like R2-D2 from Star Wars, didn't they? But today, we're experiencing a true robotization of everyday life. If you have the means, you can buy a fridge that makes your grocery list for you, and can even look up recipes for your homemade dinner. You can buy virtual reality goggles to use on your treadmill and spend 1 hour of your day running along a beautiful cliffside in Greece without leaving the comfort of your home. Well, these examples are kind of extreme, but we don't have to go that far. Even our cell phones have their own intelligence now. They can answer your questions about the weather, or even call a number for you, so you won't have to dial it. If we've already gotten this far with technological advances, what will future robots look like, say, in another 10 or 15 years? A company called UBTech has been developing humanoid robots such as Alpha Mini. The Alpha Mini robot was designed to be a household companion. The robot has impeccable handwriting, can pour you a can of Coke, do your laundry, and even fold your clothes. But it's much more than that. This robot was made to interact with people like it's one of us, smiling, laughing, showing concern. It's flexible, can dance, and even do kung fu. Wow. This could be extremely creepy, but the truth is, these robots are very cute. They were designed to look lovable and easily become part of the family. Soon, robots such as this one may be a common thing in different households. Can you imagine? When Tesla launched its Model S car, which has an automated pilot mode, it seemed that the future had finally arrived. All those years we spent dreaming of the days when cars would drive us, and it was finally here. But not really. Even though self-driving cars are impressive, we still have a long way to go. Intelligent cars are able to recognize and respond to turns, red lights, and the proximity of other vehicles, but they still have a lot of blind spots. In real-life situations, some decisions need to be made quickly and instinctively, and this is something we haven't yet managed to teach our machines. Okay, so self-driving cars aren't as amazing as we thought they would be. But how far are we from having cars flying around in the atmosphere? Maybe not that far away, it seems. Actually, some companies are developing flying car prototypes as I speak. Should I talk faster? No? Okay. Those look like a hybrid of a helicopter, a tiny airplane, and you guessed it, a car. And how will these strange flying objects run, you might ask? The flying cars that are currently in development and at testing stages can perform a vertical takeoff much like a helicopter. For now, they're able to travel short distances of about 6 miles. Even so, it's still a car that flies. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm convinced the future is truly near. Few things are worse than waking up every morning and having to look at a tattoo you hate and regret doing. Thankfully, modern laser technologies allow us to easily erase the names of our exes off of our bodies. This might sound extremely cliché, but it's also very true, according to a Paris startup that invested over 3 million euros in developing top-notch shockwave tech focused on tattoo removal. The startup understood that this technology needed an upgrade because, until recently, it could take up to 2 years to get a tattoo fully removed. This meant that most people abandoned the process halfway through. Now, in 2 sessions, you can have a tattoo gone for good. Who knows, maybe in a few years, we'll be able to remove tattoos in the blink of an eye. Now, we still need to work on the front end of this tattoo situation, the decision to get one in the first place. What would you say if I told you that it's only a matter of time until commercial space travel becomes something more accessible to the world's population? Can you imagine spending your afternoon orbiting Earth? Well, I'm happy to inform you that these days are approaching faster than you can think, my friend. In 2021, billionaire Jeff Bezos took commercial space travel a step further. He took his rocket ship for a spin that lasted about 10 minutes and 10 seconds. But even though it was a brief trip, it marked a significant moment for the future of space tourism. Bezos had a suborbital flight, which is likely to become more widely available in the near future. These rockets dash to about 60 miles above Earth, where people on board can experience weightlessness and witness extraordinary views of our planet. The rocket won't get higher than that, though. For a while, orbital flights that can reach the International Space Station will still be ridiculously expensive, something along the lines of $55 million. But hey, it's a step-by-step process, isn't it? I say leaving Earth's atmosphere is already pretty neat. Now, in case you haven't been following this news, smart toilets are becoming even smarter by the minute. Fully electronic toilets are a hype that started in Japan. but they are gradually taking over the rest of the world. Westerners who have tried it say those who haven't are seriously losing the opportunity of revolutionizing their bathroom experience. Today, our technological advances have created toilets that play music and those that use UV light to eliminate bacteria. Some of them come equipped with a touchscreen panel that allows you to control the toilet's features. Of course, such toilets will raise the lid as soon as you approach and then close it themselves after you leave. They auto-flush and heat the seat so that you can sit on a nice warm cushion. What's next, you might ask? Well, keep watching this space. Would you eat your veggies if you knew they came out of a printer? I mean, literally? Today, thanks to 3D technology, some people have been experimenting with printing food. For anything to be made using such a printer, it must come from a mushy paste that can be squeezed from the machine's nozzles. The purpose of printing food has mainly to do with its presentation, like drawing complex geometrical shapes on top of printed cookies and basically turning your food into a piece of modern art. Printers have shown greater precision for this sort of work than human hands. You might have heard of solar panels before, but probably not like this. Let's just say technology has advanced to the point of turning solar panels into tiny solar film cells. If I may, these solar panels resemble old-school camera films. The difference is that these are highly efficient power generators. Such solar film cells are photovoltaic and can produce solar power at a much lower cost and with higher efficiency than the panels we currently use. Some are saying this is solar energy 3.0. Rather sooner than later, these film cells will be used not only to charge phones, but also to power entire buildings and even cities. They occupy very little space and absorb sunlight extremely effectively. Inventions such as these sure do make the future look bright, don't they?
Recently, scientists have created the first time crystal. It sounds like something straight out of science fiction, doesn't it? As if it's some kind of mysterious component for a time machine. But this isn't quite true. In reality, time crystals are more like a perpetual motion machine. But what exactly are they, and how do they work? Let's find out. First, let's talk about crystals in general. Take a regular crystal and examine it under a microscope. You'll see that it, like everything around us, consists of molecules and atoms. What makes them special is that their atoms are arranged in a repeating pattern. For example, let's take a salt crystal. If we look at it under a microscope, we'll see a repeating pattern inside it. And this pattern is the same everywhere, no matter how small or large the piece of salt is, or what shape it is. In the whole crystal, the pattern will be unchanged. And it will always remain like this, no matter how much time has passed. The salt crystal will still have the same repeating pattern of atoms tomorrow, next week, or even next year. Now let's move on to time crystals. They're just like regular ones, but with a twist. You probably know that all atoms around us are constantly moving, even at very, very low temperatures, when everything freezes and nothing can stop them. Also, their movement is random, chaotic, and unpredictable. Just kind of jiggling in space. However, in time crystals, everything is different. Not only are their atoms arranged in a repeating pattern, just like in regular crystals, but they also move in a looped, endlessly repeating dance. Now that's weird. The atoms in time crystals are like an endless, looped dance party. All the guests repeat the same moves in the same order over and over again. This dance, or repeating pattern, can be completely different. The movements can be basic and simple, or very complex and chaotic, but they have to be looped. Hence the name. Regular crystals repeat themselves endlessly in space, and time crystals repeat themselves in both space and time. Now, just to clarify, these crystals aren't the kind we're used to. They don't look like diamonds or emeralds or anything like that. To be honest, they don't look like much at all. The beautiful name time crystal describes a new, very strange kind of matter that changes in quantum states over a period of time. Basically, it's just the dance movements of atoms. So, unfortunately, you can't just put one on your shelf to jiggle there. It's not a beautiful piece of quartz, it's more like a curiosity in physics. But that doesn't mean that these crystals aren't cool. Actually, there's something very unusual and interesting about them. You see, the movements we talked about persist even at absolute zero temperature. That is, even when in normal materials and objects, atoms would freeze, lose energy, and stop moving. In time crystals, they continue their endless dance, as if nothing happened. Oh, and that's just the beginning. Scientists are also stunned because the existence of time crystals violates the second law of thermodynamics. This law states that over time, any system becomes random and disordered. A warm object will distribute its heat and become cold. A vase balancing on the edge of a table will fall one day, and so on. But time crystals are like, we don't care about your thermo something something. Not only do they move constantly in the same pattern no matter what happens to them, but they also don't need any energy to do so. Even if they don't receive energy from anywhere, they don't stop dancing and don't become less structured or organized. Yep, we've created a beautiful, incomprehensible miracle of nature that violates the laws of physics. Isn't that impressive? But how is this even possible? And why? Does it mean that there's nothing that can stop these atoms? And most importantly, could it be a clue for the secrets of the perpetual motion machine? Well, it's quite complicated. Once again, quantum mechanics is blowing up scientists' brains. This time with another mystery, a unique and unusual behavior that we're still trying to understand. Since it's a relatively new area of research, we aren't yet sure exact work and how we can use them. By the way, how did we even discover these guys? And how were they created? Time crystals were first predicted to exist in 2012 by theoretical physicist Frank Wilczek. Not all physicists accepted the theory at the time. Many believed it was impossible to violate the second law of thermodynamics. But the universe doesn't really care what scientists think, and Frank Wilczek won a Nobel Prize for his work. However, it took a few more years for scientists to actually create and observe the first time crystals. It happened in 2016, when scientists from the University of Maryland managed to create one using ions of the rare earth metal ytterbium. Here's what they did. First, they took a regular crystal and really cooled down the atoms inside it to near absolute zero. As already mentioned, absolute zero is the temperature at which atoms stop moving. So far, we don't know how to reach this temperature, but we can get very close to it. We can slow down the atoms so much that they almost stop. So they took all these atoms and made them move really slow. And then they started shocking them with lasers. It made the atoms switch between different states over and over again without absorbing any energy from the laser. You could say that the laser gave them a beat and made them dance by themselves without anyone's help. The result was the first ever time crystal. The Maryland scientists' experiment was a major breakthrough and showed that time crystals were a real observable phenomenon. It made quite a fuss in the scientific community and was a huge step forward in the strange world of quantum mechanics. Unfortunately, there was one problem. Such perpetual motion only truly exists forever in ideal time crystals. And since the time crystals in our experiments weren't ideal, they lasted only a few minutes before they melted and started behaving normally again. What does it mean? It means that so far, unfortunately, we can't create a perpetual motion machine. If we try to do something like that, time crystals will immediately melt. But this didn't stop the scientists, and in 2021, we finally made another breakthrough. Researchers at Google, in collaboration with physicists at Stanford, Princeton, and other universities, used Google's quantum computer to much bigger and much more stable time crystal. You see, quantum computers are different from your typical laptop. They don't use regular bits, and don't work with silicon. Instead, they work with quantum bits that can exist in multiple states at the same time. This allows the time crystals to keep oscillating in a repeating pattern, even when all other motion has stopped. All the previous crystals were short-lived, made a couple of flip-flops, and immediately melted. But now, scientists have created a crystal bigger and better than ever before. So, what does this mean for us? Well, time crystals could hold the key to unlocking new technologies and a deeper understanding of the quantum world. For starters, they'll help us better explore the world of quantum mechanics. They challenge our understanding of time and the way that matter behaves. In classical physics, things are either static or they're moving in a predictable, repeating pattern. But time crystals don't care. They enjoy both static and moving at the same time. They can also help us create cool new technologies. They can bring us closer to creating full-fledged quantum computers. Engineers have struggled for years to create something that could serve as memory in quantum computers. And now they could use time crystals for that. Their repeating patterns of motion might be able to store information. Isn't that awesome? We'll also be able to create many other cool things with them. For example, we could use their repetitive behavior to create a new kind of ultra-precise clock. Time crystals are still a relatively new area of research. Right now, we're mostly trying to understand their unique properties and characteristics. Scientists are also performing experiments to study their behavior under different conditions. For example, in different temperatures and magnetic fields. In other words, this field of research is still in its early stages, but time crystals are a truly mind-boggling discovery that shows just how strange and wonderful the universe can be. They're already attracting a great deal of interest and attention from scientists around the world. I can't wait to see how many exciting and groundbreaking discoveries will come from this area in the future.
Earth. The year is 500 million CE. 2 million years ago, the sun splashed a huge bundle of energy into space. It destroyed Earth's magnetic field and burned the entire surface of our planet. Now, our world resembles a lifeless desert. All the oceans have dried up. Rivers of magma flow all over the surface, and the sky is filled with black clouds of ash. Humans have already colonized other planets, so everything is okay. In the middle of this apocalypse, a small crystal covered with volcanic dust lies under a thick layer of solidified magma. But it's not just a crystal, it's a 5-dimensional memory crystal. In simple words, this is a very cool flashcard. But what is it doing here? And what data is hidden on it? It stores everything you need to know about humans as a biological species. The year is 2024 CE. Scientists have recorded information to a unique memory card. They've engraved the sequence of the entire human genetic code in the very structure of this 5D crystal. The invention consists of nanoscale voids in a vitreous silicon dioxide material. I can continue with other complex scientific words, but let's better focus on the properties of this crystal. The small flashcard can hold hundreds of terabytes of information, thanks to nanotechnologies, even though all the information about the human genome is only 800 megabytes of data. But the coolest thing is the crystal's invulnerability. You can throw it in an oven with a temperature of 1800 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about the same temperature of lava. You can put it in the freezer, or leave it in the ice of Antarctica. You can throw it off a cliff or trample it underfoot. The information will remain readable. Of course, reading it requires special equipment, such as an optical microscope or a polarizer. In any case, if a representative of another civilization finds the crystal, they will probably figure out how to use it. Another cool thing is that the crystal material can be stored for many billions of years, which makes it one of the most reliable information storage systems in the world. Now, the crystal is stored in Austria, in the Memory of Mankind Archive, along with other important holders of information about humanity. We need to preserve all this for future generations, or extraterrestrial civilizations, or in case an apocalypse happens and people forget who they are and where they come from. Also, the 5D crystal will help resurrect humanity in case of its destruction. If some advanced intelligence from another galaxy finds the crystal and reads the information, it will be able to recreate humankind. Hopefully, they'll have the technologies capable of creating life. Take a look at this number. That's 10 septillions. This number is many times the age of our universe, and it would take 10 septillion years for the most powerful computer to solve a problem called random circuit sampling. This task has no practical purpose and doesn't solve any difficult issues. Scientists created random circuit sampling to measure the computing power of computer chips. And here's what it's all about. Google has created a quantum computing chip called Willow that could solve random circuit sampling in a few minutes. A stunning result that can significantly accelerate the development of all technologies on Earth in the coming years. A chip the size of a small mint candy was invented in California. Already, scientists are confident that Willow is capable of making a huge leap in the field of medicine development. What will happen next? The creation of thermonuclear reactors, the enhancement of AI, the invention of endless energy sources, and much more. For example, quantum computing and AI will be able to read MRI images at the atomic level. Quantum computers will evolve much faster than traditional ones. There's a lot of technical data that shows why quantum computers are so superior. But let's check out one crazy idea that explains quantum computers' advantages. It says that quantum chips exist in many parallel universes at once. And this corresponds to the idea that we live in a multiverse. In simple words, a quantum computer can simultaneously perform more tasks in different states. It's hard to understand, but here's an example. Take a rat and put it in a large maze. It will study every corridor and every corner and spend a lot of time before exploring the maze completely. But a quantum rat will be able to explore every corner of the maze at the same time as if it has many clones or one common mind. A quantum computer does the same thing. See this robot walking awkwardly around the room? And here is another robot on wheels that randomly drives from side to side. Who do you think controls these robots? A scientist? AI? A program? The answer is much stranger. These robots are controlled by mushrooms. Mushrooms are interconnected through mycelial networks that resemble human brain cells. They transmit impulses to one another and communicate in ways unknown to us. But what if they could transfer these impulses to something mechanical? Scientists from the USA decided to conduct such an experiment. They took the king oyster mushroom and grew its mycelium into the electronics of a robot. Of course, its motion was chaotic, but scientists still believe the experiment was a success. They managed to transfer the electrophysiological activity of the mushrooms to the outside world. That is, they created a biomechanical device. Mold and fungi are very tenacious. They can survive in harsh conditions and adapt to environmental changes, which is why they're so convenient to use in cybernetics. Scientists have taken a small step toward big discoveries. If today, mushrooms can transmit a signal and make a robot move, then, in the future, scientists hope to develop better ways of communicating with a live system. With this technology, we will know the reactions of mushrooms to various environmental changes. For example, mushrooms will be able to react with nerve impulses in places where toxic waste is released. We will record these signals and neutralize the effects of pollution. What if mushrooms can also respond to changes inside our bodies? Imagine swallowing a capsule with mushroom spores that are connected to nanorobots. Mushrooms enter your organism, scan your body, and transmit information to a computer. Then the doctor prescribes treatment for you. But the coolest thing is that in the future, the technology could go even further. What if we could translate mushroom signals into words and communicate with them? It might sound too psychedelic, but why not? We all know that plastic is not the best thing for our planet. The good news is that scientists have created living plastic, which can decompose itself within several months. In 2016, a special type of bacteria was discovered at a plastic recycling plant in Japan. The bacteria are capable of degrading a particular type of plastic. Over the years, scientists have discovered other similar bacteria and upgraded them, making bacteria eat plastic more greedily with the help of produced enzymes. It would be awesome if soon people would use self-destructing plastic much more often. You've probably seen how doctors examine the brain in the movies or in hospitals. They apply a sticky gel and put a helmet with a dozen electrodes connected to the head of a patient. These electrodes are, in turn, connected to a computer that displays information about the activity of the human brain. All this is a rather inconvenient and time-consuming process, but recently, scientists have found a much easier way: temporary electronic tattoos. A liquid ink applied to the head is as effective and accurate as conventional electrodes. And unlike them, ink is much easier to customize. Electronic tattoos are set up faster, and they're more comfortable for the client. The technology is a real breakthrough in the field of diagnosis and brain monitoring. The special ink is made from conductive polymers. Doctors spray it from a custom inkjet printer directly onto the patient's head. The next step for scientists is to make the ink more convenient so that it can be applied to different types of hair and hairstyles.
Have you ever wondered how cool buildings of the future are going to look? Well, hold on tight because artificial intelligence is here to revolutionize the world of architecture. AI is a great sidekick. It can give the architects incredible new tools to create mind-blowing structures that are not only stunning, but also eco-friendly and super efficient. So let's check what our beautiful future might look like. First of all, you know how cities can get crazy busy and overwhelming, right? Well, guess what? AI is here to save the day and make our cities super smart. Imagine you're cruising down the road in your flying car. Yes, we'll have those. Thanks to AI, the traffic flows like a dream. No more endless gridlock. The city knows where the most likely crime spots are and takes proactive steps to keep us safe. It's like having superheroes on every corner. And hey, forget about trash piling up. AI makes sure waste is managed efficiently, keeping our city clean and fresh. They can act as a city manager who can optimize everything from traffic to safety and even waste disposal. They can analyze tons of data from all sorts of places like sensors and social media. With all that information, they can help city planners make brilliant decisions that make our lives better. Okay, so you stroll down the street, and your eyes are instantly captivated by an extraordinary building. Its futuristic curves and features make it stand out from the rest. And it not only catches your eye, but also gives Mother Nature a high five. You might think it was designed by a genius architect, but little do you know it was actually a collaboration between humans and artificial intelligence. Imagine having a super smart design buddy who can whip up thousands of incredible building ideas in a blink of an eye. That's what AI-assisted design software does for architects. It can generate and assess a ton of design options. They take into account stuff like the best materials to use and the perfect placement for the building. Also, by analyzing data and crunching numbers, algorithms can help optimize the building's design. They can ensure it minimizes energy usage, conserves water, and manages waste like a pro. Every building strives to reduce costs, save energy, and promote a better world. The result? Architectural masterpieces that are both jaw-droppingly beautiful and super practical. The cityscape of the future will be dotted with these awe-inspiring structures. Oh, but that wasn't impressive enough for you? Well, how about a stunning, futuristic building that seems to defy gravity? It's not made of traditional bricks and mortar, oh no. This marvel was created using the powers of 3D printing. With the help of AI, architects designed every intricate detail and fed all the important data, like what materials to use and how the site conditions might affect the structure. AI algorithms worked their magic to optimize the design, making it both breathtakingly beautiful and rock solid. 3D printing is basically like having a magical machine that can create awesome structures straight out of a sci-fi movie, and AI jumps in to make sure these structures are not just pretty, but also strong. In the city of the future, 3D printing will become the ultimate architect's tool. It will allow them to create structures that were once impossible to build. From mind-bending shapes to intricate details, the possibilities are endless. But AI isn't just making buildings look great, it also makes them efficient and cozy. Let's say you step into a futuristic office building, and voila! The lights automatically adjust to match your mood, and the temperature is set perfectly for you. These futuristic buildings are capable of sensing and responding to their surroundings, just like you do. They control the lighting, keeping it just right for the time of day. They manage the temperature, so it's always cozy and comfortable. They even keep a watchful eye on security and fix small issues before they become big headaches. So, the smart building knows when people come and go, so it optimizes energy usage accordingly, saving the planet and some cash along the way. Now the cool thing is, all these aren't the only possibilities. How about turning skyscrapers into a vertical forest? Recently, an architect from India got super excited about the power of artificial intelligence. So, he decided to team up with an image bot called Midjourney to create a vision for the future. But instead of a dull, robotic world, they aimed for something spectacular. With text prompts like utopian technology and futuristic towers, the architect and AI got to work. Guess what? Midjourney didn't disappoint. It conjured up a world where buildings were covered in lush vertical forests and adorned with shapes inspired by nature. They wanted to create a sustainable future that harmonized with the environment. The architect, Manas Bhatia, is super positive about AI's potential. He doesn't see it as a threat to his job, but as a powerful tool for positive change. He envisions a future where architects and AI collaborate to make breathtaking designs. In his project, Bhatia even asked the AI to imagine symbiotic and hollowed structures, and it responded with pictures of apartments nestled within hollowed-out trees. Imagine a world where the building itself becomes a living, breathing part of nature. Well, Bhatia believes that nature should play a big role in architecture. He loves designing structures that embrace nature's beauty and functionality. From buildings built around trees to facades that regulate temperature, he's all about blending architecture with the natural world. With architects like Bhatia and the superpowers of AI, the future of cities is going to be amazing. So get ready to step into a world where nature and technology coexist in perfect harmony. It's a dream we can't wait to see come true. Or if you're not a big fan of trees, how about this? Skyscrapers that aren't made of solid bricks, but instead, they're inflatable wonders. Zumo, an architectural practice in Barcelona, used the magic of AI to bring these wobbly structures to life. These inflatable superstructures rise above future cities like illuminated balloons in the sky. Here's the best part. These inflatable buildings have sustainability superpowers. You can pump them up to towering heights, flatten them for easy transportation, and rebuild them wherever they're needed. Plus, they're powered by renewable energy, reducing their impact on the environment. Pretty cool, right? Phew, the future is zooming toward us like a rocket. Artificial intelligence can become the secret sauce that makes architects' work extra special. But hey, with great power comes great responsibility. We need to use AI wisely and ethically. For now, we don't have to worry about machines replacing architects. Artificial intelligence still needs a human hand, or else we might end up with buildings that look like mashed up bananas or ice cream cones, unless that's your thing. In addition, humans have one important advantage. They, well, are humans. We need to keep in mind that artificial intelligence doesn't have emotional intelligence. It's a brainy genius, but it can't fully understand the feelings and vibes we humans crave in our spaces. So, we must remember to infuse our designs with that human touch, those warm and fuzzy elements that make us go, "Ah, I feel right at home." And let's not forget that AI is still learning. It's basically just taking its first steps, and we need to be patient and give it time to grow. Rushing things too quickly could lead to wonky designs or buildings that look like a jumbled puzzle. This might look cool if you like avant-garde architecture, but for regular folk, no thanks. So, as the future unfolds at warp speed, let's embrace the wonders of AI in architecture. But let's also remember to balance its brilliance with our own human touch. Together, we can create a future where buildings are not just functional, but also filled with heart and soul. It's an adventure that's out of this world.
So hey, let's talk. What's your biggest fear? If it's flying or stray dogs, you might not have any particular wild phobias. But how do you feel when you see something truly huge, like a giant skyscraper? If those colossal objects give you the creeps, you might have megalophobia. And now it makes sense why a megalodon is named for its size. Let's check out some of the biggest things humans have built. No need to worry, it's just all images on a screen. Right now, you're looking at the world's largest wind turbine, which can produce a whopping 20 megawatts of power. Mingyang Smart Energy recently unveiled this big boy in Hainan, China in September 2024. The previous record holder from 2023 produced only 18 megawatts. Well, if electrical technical isn't your thing, let me break it down for you. 1 megawatt, or 1 million watts, can power about 1,000 homes. So this turbine can supply energy for around 20,000 homes, basically a small town. It has a massive rotor, nearly 1,000 feet across, and sweeps an area larger than 12 NFL football fields. Mingyang is known for building the largest offshore turbines, and this one can produce a staggering 80 million kilowatt-hours annually, enough for 96,000 homes. Plus, it's built to survive tough weather, withstanding level 17 typhoons at wind speeds of over 175 miles per hour. And guess what? Mingyang is working on an even larger turbine that'll crank out 22 megawatts and is set to be installed next year. But this time, it's got to cover 813,000 square feet. Now, if you've ever ordered something on Amazon that's from overseas or picked up some mass market clothing, you've probably relied on cargo ships. Most of those goods come by sea since it's way cheaper than air shipping. Just take a look at cargo ships with containers. They look like a bunch of Lego bricks stacked up. Each of those containers is based on a standard 20-foot intermodal container, which is basically a metal box that can easily switch between ships, trains, and trucks. We call these containers TEUs. To give you an idea of just how much they can carry, a fully loaded evergreen ship can hold up to 742 million t-shirts. That means one ship could outfit every American with at least 2 shirts. Wow. Evergreen can fit 20,124 TEUs, but it's far from being the ship with the most capacity. Check out MSC Irina, the largest container ship in the world that can hold 24,346 TEUs. Registered under the Liberian flag, it stretches an impressive 1,300 feet long and 200 feet wide. While it shares similar dimensions to other ships, it has the highest capacity because it can stack those TEUs up to 26 layers deep. It surpasses the previous record holder, the WOWCL Spain, by more than 150 TEUs. Now, speaking of ships, have you ever thought about how massive cruise ships can be? Let me introduce you to the Icon of the Seas, which weighs a staggering 248,663 gross tons. Now, to put that in perspective, it's like combining 10 Statues of Liberty. This gigantic vessel stretches around 1,200 feet, so walking from one end to the other would take you roughly 5 minutes. The Icon of the Seas was officially named on January 23, 2024, and it can host 7,600 passengers along with 2,350 crew members spread across 20 decks. It's powered by 6 strong engines, generating a whopping 67.5 megawatts of energy to keep everything running like a well-oiled machine. And when it comes to cruising, it glides through the waves at a speed of 22 knots, which is a nautical mile per hour, just a bit longer than a regular mile. Hey, how long do you think the longest bike is? Is it as long as a standard tandem bike, a truck, or maybe the length of 8 African elephants and 1 baby elephant standing in a row? The world's longest bike measures 180 feet 11 inches. That's roughly as long as 12 average cars parked end-to-end. Built in the country of bikes, the Netherlands, this impressive ride was crafted to meet Guinness World Records criteria for a functional bike, complete with 2 wheels, pedals, and handlebars. On June 3, 2023, they set the record for the longest tandem bike before tweaking it to aim for the overall longest bike title. Finally, on April 30, 2024, 2 riders, 1 steering, 1 pedaling, traveled 328 feet to snag that world record. The Autotram Extra Grand is the largest bus in the world, measuring around 101 feet. This giant can comfortably carry up to 256 passengers. Not only is it the biggest, but it's also super efficient when it comes to performance and sustainability. The Autotram features 4 guided axles, 3 of which are controlled by an electro-hydraulic system. This setup lets it steer forward and backward, just like a regular bus, while smart computer controls ensure that each section moves in sync, almost like train cars linked together. It's so efficient that drivers don't even need a special license to operate the auto trail. Sounds like a dream, huh? Well, sorry to break your pink glasses, but this guy was never put into service. The company that built it went bankrupt in 2013, so this bus never had a chance to give a ride to people out there. But there's something that measures the same 100 feet, yet is operational and can give you a lift. Meet the American Dream, the super limo that's now officially the longest car in the world. Originally built in 1986 by car customizer J. Orberg, it started off at 60 feet long, while most cars are about 14 feet long. But Orberg wasn't done yet. He later extended it to break the 100-foot mark and snagged a spot in the Guinness World Records as the longest car around. Now, back in its heyday, the American Dream made some flashy appearances in movies, but eventually it ended up parked in a warehouse in New Jersey when maintenance became too much to handle. Renting it was just too complicated and pricey, especially when it was still just 60 feet long. Things turned around when Michael Manning, the owner of a technical teaching museum in New York, spotted the rusty old limo with broken windows and fell in love with it. Although it was in pretty rough shape, he wanted to save it. But when the museum's lease ended, money got tight and Manning decided to list the car on eBay. After it was bought in 2019, the limousine got a makeover. Now it isn't just big, it's got a helipad, a swimming pool with a diving board, a putting green, and can fit over 75 people. Now, there's nothing much that beats the thrill of catching a close game surrounded by over 100,000 fellow fans cheering their hearts out. The biggest stadiums on the planet are mostly in the US, but the biggest one is not there, and even if you wanted to visit it one day, you'd have a hard time doing it. Frankly, it's next to impossible, because it's situated in probably the most closed country in the world. All you need to know here is that the stadium is massive, with a seating capacity of 150,000 seats. But there's something just as massive located in India. The Narendra Modi Stadium, formerly known as Motera Stadium, is located in Ahmedabad. This ginormous cricket stadium holds over 132 fans, making it the second largest in the world. Finally, we've got an enormous vacuum chamber that's probably bigger than your entire house. So, what's a vacuum chamber exactly? Well, think of it like a supersized vacuum cleaner designed to suck out all the unwanted gases. It's a sturdy enclosure where air and other gases are removed using a vacuum pump, creating a low-pressure atmosphere inside, what we call a vacuum. This kind of environment is perfect for researchers who want to conduct experiments or test equipment that need to function in space. The world's largest vacuum chamber can be found at the Space Power Facility at a NASA research center in Ohio. It's a massive space that measures 100 feet across and reaches an impressive height of 122 feet.
You could get to Mars in just 30 days. No, this isn't sci-fi. A new, breakthrough plasma engine could actually make it happen. Pretty soon, we might be swapping our beach chairs in the Bahamas for a trip to the Red Planet. So, when can we buy our tickets? Well, probably not until 2030. And even then, those first rides will probably be a luxury reserved for astronauts, not tourists. They're already thrilled though, because this engine could change everything about space travel, cutting flight times way down and making missions a lot easier to handle. Right now, traveling to Mars is just a dream. Nobody's ever set foot there, and there's one big reason why. A round trip would mean spending years stuck in space. And that's anything but safe. We did send people to the moon though, but that's a whole different story. Getting to our natural satellite only takes a few days. The fastest trip was Apollo 8, when the crew made it from Earth's orbit to the moon's orbit in just under 3 days. If the team wants to save fuel, they might choose a different route to get there. And those paths can take way longer, sometimes weeks, even months before they finally reach the moon. So how long it takes to get there is more of a strategic choice. Now, what about Mars? Well, the Red Planet is a lot farther away. On average, it's about 140 million miles from Earth. According to NASA, even if you could hop on a spaceship right now and head straight there, the trip would take anywhere from 7 to 10 months. Take NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, for example. This spacecraft launched from Cape Canaveral in August 2005 and didn't reach Mars's orbit until March of the next year. How long the trip takes can change though. That's because the distance between Earth and Mars is always changing as they orbit the Sun. So even if we can get there in a few months, a round trip could end up taking nearly 3 years. And nobody wants that. Not just because it'd be boring to live up there without Netflix, but because it's seriously risky. Spending that much time in space can do real damage to the human body. You see, a mission to Mars would put astronauts through 3 different gravity fields. First, during the trip to Mars, they'd be weightless. Then, once they arrive, they'd have to live and work in a gravity that's only about a third as strong as Earth's. And finally, when they come back, they'd have to readjust to Earth's gravity. Switching between all those gravity fields is no joke. Astronauts can lose their balance and sense of direction, which can cause nausea and confusion. Dealing with that while landing a spacecraft on Mars is definitely not fun or easy. That's just one set of problems. There are plenty of other challenges with a trip this long, like a communication delay of up to 20 minutes one way, the risk of equipment breaking down or medical emergencies, and the constant need to carefully ration food and supplies. Thankfully, the new engine I mentioned earlier might just save the day and could make the trip way shorter, or at least that's what scientists are saying. They've built a prototype of plasma electric rocket engine that could get us to Mars in just 30 to 60 days. And if your first reaction was, a plasma what? Don't worry, I'll explain. So, here's a normal rocket, the kind you see blasting off from Cape Canaveral. It works by pumping liquid hydrogen fuel and liquid oxygen oxidizer into its engine. When the fuel burns, it releases a ton of energy, creating thrust. In simple terms, that burning makes super hot gas that blasts out the back, pushing the rocket forward, and off it goes. Now, here's the plasma rocket. It takes off pretty much the same way using the same chemical mix to launch. But once it reaches orbit, it switches over to an electric propulsion system, and it works completely differently. Instead of burning liquid hydrogen and oxygen, it uses 2 electrodes. When charged particles move between those electrodes and a high voltage is applied, the current creates a magnetic field that pushes the particles out of the engine. That superheated plasma shoots out in one direction, and the spacecraft moves in the other. That's how it creates thrust. We're talking about at least 6 newtons of thrust. To give you an idea, 1 newton is about the same force it takes to hold up a small apple against gravity. Sure, that sounds tiny compared to the explosive power of a normal rocket, but here's the thing. A plasma engine can run non-stop for months, gradually accelerating spacecraft to extremely high speeds. Cool, but how fast are we talking? Well, regular rockets that burn fuel can reach a maximum exhaust velocity of about 2.7 miles per second. Meanwhile, this new plasma rocket can hit around 62 miles per second. At those speeds, a rocket trip to Mars could only take a month. That's a huge difference. That's why people think this new engine could completely change space travel. By letting spacecraft go way farther while using a lot less fuel, this tech might finally be what we need to leave our footprints on the Martian surface. And who knows, maybe even go beyond that. But it's not exactly ready yet. It could take years. Right now, it's more of a prototype, still in a very early stage of development. It's being tested inside a special facility, a 46-foot-long vacuum chamber about 13 feet wide that simulates the conditions of space. The whole idea is to see how the engine performs in realistic conditions before actually sending it into orbit. One of the things they might want to test is how it reacts to gamma-ray radiation. Because out in space, radiation isn't just sunlight. It's streams of tiny subatomic particles coming from the Sun, the Milky Way, and even beyond. They may be small, but they're still a major challenge for long missions. Because here on Earth, radiation from the sun and space isn't a big deal. Our atmosphere and magnetic field absorb or deflect most of it. But astronauts and their spacecraft don't have that kind of natural protection out there. The problem is that these high-speed particles can pass right through the human body. They can tear through DNA molecules, breaking them apart and causing serious health problems. Even just an hour without proper shielding could be life-threatening for us. Well, for the astronauts, I mean. But it's not just humans. Spaceships take a hit too. These particles can penetrate the spacecraft's materials and damage sensitive electronics, causing glitches, malfunctions, and even complete failure. That's the last thing you want on a long space trip, right? It's not like there's a pit stop with a mechanic on the way to Mars. And with a round trip taking over a year, that's a huge problem. The longer astronauts and their ship are exposed, the higher the risk. That's why finding ways of getting to Mars faster is so important. But the creators of this plasma engine are not the only ones racing to get to Mars with faster rockets, though. NASA recently teamed up with the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency to test a nuclear thermal rocket engine in space, a technology that could also cut down travel time for future human missions to the Red Planet. Meanwhile, SpaceX has even bigger ambitions with their colonization program, better known as Occupy Mars. Their plan is to send people to actually live on the Red Planet, hoping it'll help humanity survive in the long run. They're planning to launch the first starships there in 2026, but they'll probably still be uncrewed. The scientists are confident that those ships make it to Mars in just 6 months. So, we've got a plasma engine, a nuclear thermal rocket, and a whole Occupy Mars mission all racing to get people to Mars very soon. But who is really going to pull it off first and get there the fastest? I guess only time will tell. But hey, you can drop your guess in the comments.
Are you a fan of comic books? You know how in many of them the story goes something like this. There is a scientist who does an experiment. And plot twist, it goes wrong. As a consequence, they gain strange powers. And eventually they either become the hero or the villain of the story. Well, what I'm trying to say is, the experiments I'll talk about now are so crazy that they could very well belong to a superhero movie. So buckle up for one wild ride through this scientific world. If only scientists knew their experiment could almost result in catastrophe. Back in 1991, one Finnish scientist introduced a species of butterfly onto one remote island to study if they could survive the new harsh environment. But before you feel sorry for the butterflies who are taken away from their homes to a totally strange place, hear this. The scientist had no clue that these innocent-looking butterflies were actually hosting a species of stomach-bursting parasitic wasp. But wait, it gets even weirder. Those parasitic wasps also carried their own, smaller, stomach-bursting hyperparasites. And they were parasitic wasps themselves, too. Once the butterflies were released on the island, the wasps erupted, spreading across the island all thanks to their hosts, creating a wasp-ocalypse, so to speak. Imagine you were living there. Well, you would have all the right to feel angry. But thankfully, the island was unoccupied. Yet again, the same species of butterfly were seen on some of the small islands in the region. So let's hope they were unoccupied too. You see, the harsh conditions didn't seem to stop the butterflies and the parasitic wasps from thriving and living their best lives. And all have managed to survive in the area even to this day. This eyebrow-raising experiment provided later scientists with a lesson to be learned. Do your research better. Never tickle a sleeping dragon. Or in the case of this crazy experiment, never bring zombies back to life. Now, before things start to sound too fictitious for you, let me quickly clarify that the zombies I'm talking about now are not the shambling, brain-hungry ones. They are actually multicellular microscopic animals called bedelloid rotifers that live in freshwater environments. Think about any immortal character in the movies, TV shows, and books, and these rotifers are probably way older than them. They have been around for about 50 million years. And as you can imagine, being able to exist for such a long time requires some solid survival skills. And thanks to other previous experiments, scientists had already known that rotifers could be frozen at -4 degrees Fahrenheit and then revived up to 10 years later. But when they came across a group of zombie rotifers that were frozen inside Arctic permafrost for 24,000 years, they discovered something even more fascinating and jaw-dropping. Well, guess being a scientist requires having a passion for danger, because bringing them back to life wouldn't be high on my agenda if I found those zombies. But these scientists did. Once they thawed the rotifers, they not only woke up, but also went on to reproduce by creating perfect clones of themselves. In case you're wondering how that is possible, these little creatures are able to go into a suspended metabolic state known as cryptobiosis. This is almost as if they're hitting the pause button on life. They are evolved to use cryptobiosis because most of them live in watery habitats that often freeze or dry up, and it's how they protect themselves until their conditions improve. Alexa, play Survivor by Destiny's Child. With this kind of spooky experiment, scientists are hoping to better understand cryopreservation and how it could be adapted for humans. If these scientists were witches or wizards, I bet they would pick alchemy as their elective class at Hogwarts. In this next mind-bending experiment, scientists scientifically transformed purified water into metal. And even though it was for a few fleeting seconds, this transformation allowed the liquid to conduct electricity as well. But how did they do it? Well, one thing's for sure, they didn't use the mythical Philosopher's Stone. So, the alkali metals of sodium and potassium were scientists' secret ingredients. When they mixed small droplets of sodium and potassium with a tiny amount of water vapor, an incredible thing happened. For a few short moments, the water transformed into a shiny golden metal. And the most fascinating part was that they saw it with their bare eyes. All this might provide scientists insight into the highly pressurized hearts of planets, where transformations like this can naturally occur. But this experiment also proves one other thing, if you ask me. It is that science really is magic. If the ice zombie didn't give you the chills, this next experiment will. So, have you ever heard about organoids? They are mini versions of organs that scientists can grow in labs using stem cells. The cool thing about these stem cells is the fact that they have the ability to turn into any type of cell in the body. So in the past, scientists had already developed tiny beating hearts and tear ducts that could cry as humans do. They had even grown mini brains that produce brain waves like those of preterm babies. But there's a new and exciting addition to the list of organoids. It is a tiny brain with its own pair of eyes called optic cups. Well, we are past sci-fi now. This is the territory of horror movies. Anyway, the researchers' process involved transforming stem cells into neural tissue first. Then they stimulated those cells with chemical signals to form tiny optic cups filled with light-sensitive cells. The optic cups appeared as early as 30 days and matured within 50 days. And the most fascinating thing about this time frame is the fact that it is similar to how the retina develops in a human embryo. The researchers created 314 mini brains in total, but not all of them formed optic cups. Only 72% did. Even though this might all sound so creepy, thanks to these organoids, scientists can gain insights into the development and function of our own brains. They can also help us understand how our visual system develops and how diseases affect the brain, and even help cure retinal disorders that cause blindness. This next experiment is fantastic. We have all been in situations where we feel like a fish out of water. But one scientist took that saying literally. He wanted to see whether fish could find their way like they do in the ocean in a totally new environment. So he placed goldfish in cars. Well, fish-operated tanks to be exact, aka a plastic aquarium mounted on a small platform with wheels. These tanks also had a camera on top that could track their movements. Whenever the fish swam in a specific direction, the car would move in that same direction as well. But as you can imagine, making a fish drive was no easy task. He first trained the fishies to associate certain actions with specific rewards. For example, if they could successfully move the car, they got a delicious treat. Next, he taught them to make sense of the environment around the water vehicles they were in by placing obstacles. And to his surprise, it was only after a couple of days that the fish adjusted to changes in their surroundings perfectly. Don't get too excited though. This doesn't mean you might have a goldfish Uber driver sometime soon. There's a new mutant spider in town. There's a new mutant spider in town! In our last experiment, a group of scientists genetically modified a species of spider and created its short-legged version. To do that, they first had to map the entire genome of the species. Then they isolated the long legs gene and turned it off in developing embryos, which created individual arachnids with shorter, deformed legs. The researchers are hoping this experiment will help them reveal the secrets of the spider's body, as well as its unique method of locomotion, which is walking with 3 pairs of legs and waving the longest pair about to feel its way around.
That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click